Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Pyromancer here, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. And thank you for joining us for another episode of the Hearth and Hammer podcast, a very special one, because our dear friend and co-host here, Olwenn, has brought on for us a very special guest, Dan Olson of the Folding Ideas YouTube channel. If you're not familiar, Dan Olson is an Alberta-based documentarian. Makes videos on a broad range of subjects rooted in stories and how they reflect and shape the world around us. So very similar in a respect to kind of what Olwenn and I like to focus on, narrative and story-based analysis and how it actually involves people and reflects it. So thank you so much for joining us, Dan. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. We are excited. We're a little bit nervous. You're our first guest on our podcast.
Wow.
Perfect first guest, I gotta say.
Honestly.
Oh man, I
guest.
should have brought a Labatt world record for it.
I don't know how we're gonna top this, Olwenn. Actually, I'm not sure.
I know we're batting too high of an average right now. I think
This will have to be our only guest.
yeah, I think so.
First and only. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. We are super excited to jump into it. For those who don't know, Dan is a longtime WoW player, but if you'd like, feel free to tell us a little bit about that. What's your history with World of Warcraft? That's what we'll focus mostly on, and your YouTube channel.
So basically, still unbroken subscription since day 2. I
This man.
I can blame that on a broken piece of pottery that I was working a warehouse job at the time at one of those, like a consignment retailer, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna get WoW or not. I was really kind of like on the fence about it, and then it came out, and then the next day, so day 2, I'm at work and I go to pick up this pot and it shatters, slicing my hand open. Not like crazy bad, but like bad enough that I get sent home for a week with pay in workers' comp and two stitches and a week in pay. So all of a sudden I've got a bunch of time off, a little extra cash in my pocket, and I was like, you know what? Why not?
Such a reason.
And yeah, so I've been playing since classic. What we generally used to call vanilla.
Yeah.
Most of that time since Burning Crusade, I've mained a healer of some kind. Currently Evoker, but monk and druid in the past as well.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So have you played every expansion then, like actively at some point or another?
The sort of the one that gets a big star next to it is Legion, because like many people during the Tanan jungle days of WoD, I found other things to do with my time, and then there was just kind of this then there was this moment where I was sitting there and I'm like, they were ramping up advertising for BFA, and I'm like, is my sub still going? Has it been going this entire time? Have I been basically like idly paying for a sub for like an entire expansion at this point now? Like, look into it. Yeah, Dan. Yeah, you have. And so I was like, okay, you know what I should do? I should log in and see if I just even enjoy pushing the buttons anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like if the basic interaction even has like any appeal for me. So I logged back in and ran around Tanan when it was like empty, but you've got like weird broken scaling things from the fact that like you're no longer level cap anymore, and so so it is kind of like frictionless, and also everything's being nerfed into the ground, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like, and it's empty. So Tanan, all the things that made Tanan like awful have like mostly been tempered just as a result of that.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for that, and like Tanan was still utterly miserable to even exist in, then like maybe it would have been a different story. Maybe pushing the buttons wouldn't have been fun. But I was like, yeah, you know what, I enjoy doing things. And I was hearing, so I was like, you know what, let's get BFA. So I pre-ordered BFA, and of course that came with Legion. So I jumped into Legion like at the very end. Like I think I played Legion for the last month that it was current. And you know, and that made a huge impact because obviously like you're kind of at that point seeing Legion in its best light. It's wearing its finest clothes.
Yeah.
The especially if you're not rapidly trying to do like the hardest things in the game, right? Like if you're just jumping in at the casual tier at the very end of Legion, the artifact grind is basically non-existent for any purpose that you care about. Everybody was running like everything in LFR. Like you had people just like geared to the tits, queuing up for LFR. So like queue times for all of the LFR raids was like crazy short. And so like, and it was for like all of them. So you could see like all the raids. Now, granted, you were basically like hold W to follow behind a warrior who has Titan forged out of the expansion. But like, you know, that's fine. You get to push the buttons. You get to see the stuff. I had no clue if I was even doing like anything effective or not. And that wound up coming to bite me because at one point I was like, you know what? I keep hearing about this like M+ thing. So I joined a group, not knowing how the system worked, not knowing what I was supposed to be doing, just kind of trusting that like, you know, I've been playing at level cap for about a week now.
I got
Clearly,
this.
I've got gear for this. And we get into Eye of Ashara. The tank pulls the first couple mobs. I'm pushing like rejuve and regrowth, and his health does not move.
Oh no!
Like just nothing happens. This is a 2.
Oh,
this is a
no.
2, and like nothing happens. And it's bad enough that he just like puts in chat, healer ? I'm just like, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't be here, and like left. And I'm just like, I don't know if I screwed them over. I don't know what's going on. I left, I logged off and didn't. I'm like, it's like I want to be gone. I don't want, if they slash who me, I don't exist anymore. Like,
Deleted the character.
I gotta vanish for a day. And then I used the level boost on my monk like hide, and
To hide.
and that's what I discovered. Like, oh, okay, itemization at the end of the expansion is super screwed up. And because I was kind of sort of doing things in order, and because of the way that World Quest worked in Legion, like I was getting gear, but I was getting end game gear from, like, I was getting level cap gear from launch.
Yeah, from the basic.
So everything that I was
right.
getting was like 70 item levels below what
Right.
you could get by just like killing mobs out on Argus.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I need to figure out like what's going on here. And unraveling that was actually like crazy difficult because everything's in parallel. You don't have a reference point for like what good gear is. And that actually wound up being a really, really informative experience because I had never before been in that position. I had always been at every other point in my career in WoW been at like the forefront. Maybe not like the bleeding edge, but like, you know, I was, you know, I'm a player who is in whatever the end game dungeon is week 2. Week 1 sometimes. Like it all comes down to like, okay, how is the actual like release schedule sorted? You know, when new content comes out with catch-up gear, I go do it once and then I get the gear. I'm like, oh, this is 20 item levels behind me. I don't actually even need to be here. And then I never go back until like the end game achievements come out and they're like, yeah, you need max rep with this thing. I'm like, what is that again?
Go back and grind it now.
Go back and grind it now. Yeah.
Yep.
So it was really illuminating to be like, how do you navigate gearing when you jump into an expansion late and suddenly everything is being presented to you in parallel? And it's gotten, so I've been like tuned in to whenever they're like making changes to those systems, because I'm like, yeah, I know how bad it can be, and it's gotten better. It's still pretty hard to navigate, but at least they've changed the systems so that like world quests and whatnot are, you know, those rewards are boosted. You still end up with a really weird thing where you'll jump in, you'll do the leveling campaign, and those rewards don't change. So your level, you know, right now, what is our level cap right now?
We're around like 280. If you're mythic and
but like, what's the
geared.
actual like? What we just leveled up to 90
max
again?
level?
90?
Yeah.
90, I think. Yeah.
We're back at 90 again. You know, so your like level 89 quests, you know, will reward, you know, if we come in like a year and a half from now, your level 89 quest will still be rewarding like 172 items. And then you'll ding 90, and all of a sudden world quest will just be like, here's a 310 item. So that can be whiplash, but at least it becomes like really, really obvious. Unlike the Legion situation where like you kind of have to crawl, you still have to crawl up like the item level ladder in order to get to that point. But anyway, yeah, that's a really circuitous version of my history with WoW.
Thank you so much for explaining. And it's remarkable. I'll just say this real quick, and then Olwen, you can go for it. As a seasoned player, what those hurdles and what that struggle looks like. I can't imagine a brand new player trying to go through that experience.
Yeah, because at least I had the language to understand, like, oh, my item level is wrong.
Yeah.
I'm doing the wrong quests because, you know, yeah, I am aware that the correct quests exist. I'm just not doing them, and I just need to figure out why they're not showing up on my map or where I need to go in order to find them.
Standing there like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction, just like looking around, like, I know it's here, but where? But yeah.
No, I mean, and I think that's really informative, because one quick question I want to ask before I ask you about Midnight is, do you think jumping right into the end of Legion and having to deal with all these different parallel systems, the gear, the AP, do you think at a certain point when you were putting together your video, why it's rude to suck at WoW, did you go back to that experience and say, okay, there certainly is something here to be solved on the design scale, I should say?
Yeah, I tapped into that when we'll get. Yeah, do you want me to just jump into the videos, or talking about the videos, or we can loop back to that?
Yeah, I suppose we could loop back to that. I was just looking for a yes, I guess, at that point. Yeah, because the reason why I would ask that is because I think the end game of Midnight is a little bit more clear. But again, we're not at the end of the expansion, so
yeah,
you know, I suppose maybe that's the only reason why I asked that, because thinking about your video, which we'll get back to, I do remember, I think it was in Dragonflight, they were trying to change something as simple as the clutter on the map for new players.
Yeah, there was a lot.
But it doesn't change the fact that there was like still a system upon system upon system that you have to like unlock and understand patch by patch. So no, I guess, yeah. And the streamlined nature of it is certainly not there yet for new players.
Yeah, the main thing that they've kind of done with Midnight to alleviate it is the world track on the vault. Right. And the fact that like it's kind of a just do stuff thing that at the very least signals that it's like, okay, you can get gear by just going and doing stuff. And as long as they maintain some level of parity between you know, like if hypothetically end of expansion we're at, well, it would probably be back. We'll probably be back at like a 320 330 item level for whatever the mythic content is in at that point. And so you're getting 295 300 item level from world stuff, as long as whatever's new in that patch, and also just running around doing rune stones and world quests, and just as long as all the miscellanea, all the lowest level, lowest tier world stuff is at parity with itself and with all of what's available, then I think that's the big thing that avoids it, is that it's like, if all of that, you're getting the same reward from all of that, it does at least signal that, like, okay, this, like, world stuff is world stuff. Yep. If you're brand new, just go do world stuff. Go do whatever kind of like catches your fancy, whatever sounds fun. It's all the same. It's homogenous as far as rewards go. So all you need to optimize for is your own fun and your own time. And that, I think, is that's kind of the big thing. And then what they should be gating within that would be how kind of like transferable the gear is. So like if you've got something like Siren Isle, where it's like, okay, this isn't necessarily like this isn't gear for your main. Mm-hmm. This is gear for the rest of your war band. And so it's a little bit better, but it's transferable. Yep. And so like that's maybe like tucked away a little bit, just a smidge. You're not necessarily gonna like wander into it if you're lost baby deer just logging into the expansion for the first time 12 months after it came out. But like, so there's little system things in there that you can guide people through. And I think the big thing to avoid was that sort of pit that I wound up in, where there are world quests that are rewarding current tier stuff. They're not the ones that I'm doing, though. That was kind of the problem, is that I had this character that like couldn't get gear and like had to go through a very specific path to like, all right, you got to complete, uniting the Isles, and you got to complete Broken Shore, and you got to complete this in order to unlock this, and then you'll start seeing the actual world quests. Yeah. That was, I think, the problem, because it made it very difficult to find the stuff I was supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And
the objective clarity.
And with Argus, I think that even if you did manage to like wander there, I think there, like you're describing, there was a process to even get the world quests on top of that as well.
Man.
Yes, I remember.
Even now, I've done it, 7-8 times, but even now, if I've got a new character where it's like, oh, I need to go get a thing from Argus, I need to go get I want to get a transmog from Argus, a class specific, whatever. And it's like, okay, unlock Argus. I go and spend at least 10 minutes wandering around Dalaran before I'm just like, all right, tab out how to unlock Argus.
Yes.
Because I'm like, I know there's a shortcut, but it's not here. And it's like, oh, you need to be, it's like, enter Dalaran, and it'll pop up. And it's like, it's not. Trust me, it's not. The head is not here.
Don't see Khadgar anywhere. Yep.
Yeah, log out, log back in, like try a bunch of things. Oh, have you done your class hall? I am not doing the entire class hall. How much of the class hall do I need? Well, you only need to do a little bit of the class hall. You need to hit this point in your class hall. And the problem, a Legion problem, is that it's like, air quote, this point in your class hall is very, very different depending on which class hall campaign it is.
True.
Some of them, it's basically like, oh, you walk in the door and they're like, wow, this place is dusty. Go wipe everything off. And then you do one quest that's just like, go around and click on all of the different stations. And then there's others where it's like, Lo, adventurer, the crafting table requires rare items that can only be found across 3 expansions. Take these portals and go do 5 steps in Warlords of Draenor, the Burning Crusade, and Wrath of the Lich King, and then come back to me and I will give you 2 more. And it's like, very, very different experiences depending on what class haul you're doing.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the more beloved things about Legion is the class halls, but it's a ton of content. Go ahead, Olwen. Sorry.
No, but that's exactly right. Especially if you're jumping right back in. I certainly think the class hall, again, quest clarity. We're kind of jumping into why I think Midnight's a little bit better in certain respects, but quality of life and UX is definitely something that I feel like Blizz is really improving on each expansion. So, yeah,
it sure would be nice to have. Sorry, I had to interject. It would be nice to have a menu on like the, you know how they have like the recommended via the adventurer guide recommended content. It sure would be nice as we progress through an expansion for them to simply have like a little box for like patch 7.1, patch 7.2, patch 7.3, and like it just directs you to the main, pathway for discovering that content would be very nice.
I wish that hung around longer. Yeah. Because it's like, it's got the thing for like the current patch, but a lot of times it'll have the thing for the current patch that's just basically like a flyer. So it's like, oh, here's the thing. I'm like, okay, how do I start it?
Olwen.
And it's like, just always have like, here's a, it's like a button that you click that gives you the breadcrumb quest. And make the breadcrumb quest eternally repeatable, worth 1 copper and 1 XP, so that no one can do anything like, weird and broken with it. Just like at any point, I should be able to like click a button that puts me back on the rails.
Yeah, I don't think World of Warcraft has enough reminders and stuff in that way of like, man, what if I take a break for 6 months or 6 years and I come back and it's nice to be able to get like almost like a repeatable tutorial, or not even necessarily a tutorial, but just some guidance on where to go with it. And that's something you've commented about in your videos too, is that World of Warcraft largely, even from its inception, has not done that much in the way of like providing that pathway for the player necessarily. So I certainly would love to see more of that.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree. And I think that leads me into one of our first questions here for Dan is, in general, what is your impression of Midnight? I guess we can start with your first impressions. There's some ideas that I have in terms of like how we broke it down. We talked about the narrative, gameplay, aesthetics, UI, UX, quality of life, whatever you want. You just jump in there and you tell us what you think about the current expansion.
My experience with Midnight has been different from my usual, just because I've been so busy. And I've been in really kind of a different frame of mind than I typically am for a new expansion launch. I've been so busy and so stressed that I've been unable to really, like, I had a point. I was so busy with the Mr. Beast video, and so
great video,
stressed.
By the way. Great
awesome video.
Thank you.
And the follow.
I couldn't focus on anything of any meaningful complexity. And so my experience with a lot of Midnight, like leveling up initially and a lot of things, was just flying in circles, clicking on rocks. that flying around and mining, and then feeding those through an army of like crafting alts and posting stuff on the auction house. So like playing the auction house has been easily 80% of my Midnight experience so far, because it doesn't rely on other people. I can do it at any time. It's highly atomizable. You can do it for 5 minutes. You can do it for 5 hours. So it expands to fill time. It expands and contracts to fill time very, very elegantly. And in that regard, I will say that like crafting with a few hitches feels as good as it ever has. It's actually like competing in the early launch economy was actually like a lot of fun, even if it was also a little stressful. There's a few hitches. The last 20 points in jewel crafting are a nightmare from designed by Satan himself, with like very, very few options, and the options that exist are like not fun to do, because you just end up it's so narrow in terms of what you can even use, that like everybody ends up funneled into a couple things, and there's no variance. So it's just like, all right, your options are craft 50 of this one thing that will be utterly worthless because everybody's crafting it, or craft 25 of this more expensive thing that will also be worthless because everybody's crafting it. Like, okay, choose which way, modern man. And a bunch of the other professions that I've done have had like the choke just like has not been that severe in that regard. So yeah, a lot of my experience has been with the crafting system. It's been gathering, it's been flying in circles, clicking on rocks, and in that regard, like the zones are very lovely and very wonderful to fly around. They've got a lot of like environmental variety between them. There's a lot of fun little nooks and crannies, and there's a lot of patterns to learn about them. And you know, that's enjoyable. Like the world is beautiful. The overhaul
Absolutely.
of Silver Moon,
Stunning.
and you know, the overhaul of the Burning Crusade portion of the map is
It's incredible.
stunning, brilliant, everything you could have hoped it would ever be, in terms of having like callbacks, in terms of like, you know, showing the world progressing, you know, like adding new elements into it, expanding the vague margins. Like it's really, really good. It looks wonderful. The narrative has been, so like I have finished the campaign. I did in fact finish the campaign when I got to 90 via clicking rocks and realized, oh right, that gives you literally 0 gear.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you know, what was the last raid of the previous expansion? You know, you're now
Mana Forge.
yeah, your
Mana
Mana
Forge
Forge gear isn't cutting it anymore. So I was like, how do I get gear? Well, world quests, etc., open up once you've finished the campaign. Okay. So I do wish that I had flipped it and blitzed through the campaign, because it turns out if you blitz the campaign, you come out of it at like level 88 and a half, I believe, if you just sort of critical path, and people were complaining about that.
87, 88.
Yeah, 87, 88. And I wound up being kind of the other way around, where around like level 88, I was like, I probably need to start like doing more of the campaign. And so I would do it, but then also like I wound up doing so much of it once I was 90, that it was just like, I'm 90, I'm getting level 87, level 88 gear out of these quests. So I'm gaining. So I spent like basically 2 days finishing the campaign, getting nothing out of it. 0 upgrades, basically vendoring everything just for coin. And the entire time, Evoker is in sort of an odd spot where like, so you're doing it where you're in, you know, the secondary stat crunch is the most aggressive it's going to be, all expansion. You're on a class that is not that strong. Like it's not an overpowered class at the moment, notoriously a little fragile, and relies a lot on kiting, and you have 0 crit for devastation. So you do nothing. You're nothing procs, nothing procs. You know, your damage is like, is not in a good place. I was like, this is miserable.
That was
this
my experience
is
in my
not a
Evoker
fun
as well.
time.
Yeah. I was playing Dev
So
as well, and I felt like I just hit like a teddy bear. It just did nothing.
Yeah. So I'm like, I really should have flipped this. I should have blitzed through the campaign as dev, so I was at least getting upgrades, and then just gone and clicked rocks until 90, and it would have taken the same amount of time and had the same results, and really I probably wouldn't have even made that much less gold as a result. Like, yeah. But I did enjoy the campaign.
Cool.
One of the things that I'm kind of flip-flopping on is but mostly coming down on the side of like, yeah, no, I think this was a good choice, is that there's content that very clearly was like principally completed in War Within, now being sort of like carried forward and like finished and then presented to players in this second expansion. And I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with that. It does. There are some seams there, that are like a little obvious at times. You know, you're running around Harandar, and it's very clearly like was supposed to be off of Azj-Kahet.
Yeah, 11.1 patch content probably instead of Undermine.
Yeah. And I'm always like, but that's fine, because it is like it is helping tie that. It's like, okay, you're working on a trilogy, like you're calling this a trilogy,
right?
So you should have elements of like, you know, you should have recurring elements. You should have things and places that we go back to. And in fact, one of the things that I'm like, you should have gone even harder is they should have just straight up had it connect to Azj-Kahet still.
I think that would have been
actually
fine.
Have a like. I think it would have been fine if
we
just
were
like
just
add another cave. It's like, oh, but we were, you know, and like some people are like, but we were just there. It's like, yeah,
no,
that's what makes
exactly
it fine. Is we know our way around there, you know, and it's like you would still 99% of the time get there by just using the portal in Silvermoon. So it would not matter. It would not break anything if there was just add a cave, just connect the two, just link them, and you can see the cave where like it was supposed to be because we come in through it. And I think that would have been. I think that would have been even better. Yeah, I think that would have been even better. That it's like having this actual link, and you know, yeah, maybe for the first time. You're sending players there, like have them actually go back to Dornogal down through the core way and like fly in through this cave to meet up with Orwenna. I was gonna call it, like I was gonna say a different name. Like, no, that's just somebody in your Discord who has a very similar name. Meet up with Orwenna, and like I think that would have been a lot of fun. I think that would have been really like, it would have added a lot of the cohesiveness that they're looking to add and trying to add, and would have like, you know, would have helped reinforce that like this is a trilogy and it's connected, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I do like how they kept to that same kind of storyline of like, you have the Titan Disc quest in the War Within where you're learning about, at least from some perspective of Arcadis, information conveyed to him from Khazgoroth, one of those Titans, basically of like, yeah, we built this this world core thing, and they put her in there so that no one could influence her except, you know, except them. And then in the next expansion, we're getting that, like, oh, there was a goddess here who's pretty much supposed to be Azeroth, and then now she's here. So I do very much appreciate that. But there's definitely, like you said, some areas of like, yeah, the light bloom spread to Harandar through the root ways, which I guess makes sense, right? But then it's through the vulnerable Shaladrasil of Val'Sharah in Legion, because it was infected by the nightmare. But then it's like, then we don't go there to like witness any of that. So I see what they're trying to do there. Harandar, for me anyway, of all the zones, I ended up giving it the lowest rating for when we kind of did our expansion review. But man, the music in that zone is unbelievable.
It is really good.
There's some top.
Yeah, there's some great parts of that. So yeah, I appreciate the degree of continuity they're going for.
The potatoes.
Yeah,
like I would have, even if I gave Harandar like a C, it's immediately bumping up to B+ for potatoes and the fungal
The Fungarian guys.
the fungal dinosaurs.
Oh yeah.
Oh right,
Like,
yeah, those are cool.
The creature design in Harandar is a highlight of the expansion for me. It's so much fun.
I love the two groups we meet there, the Fungarians and the Rutani. I wish we could play Rutani. That'd be super cool.
And then
go ahead, Olwen.
UX / quality of life. Complicated feelings there. Oh boy.
Okay.
I think they've done a reasonably okay job with the severing of key add-ons.
Mm-hmm.
I still very much boy do I miss my weak auras for like just so many like little things. Initially it was just like, oh, I used to have a weak aura that would just remind me that I didn't have a food buff.
Yeah.
Or that like, you know, it just had a list of like, it was literally just a list of like flask, food buff, mana oil. And it was right next to like where I have my group buffs. So like Source of Magic and Blessing of the Bronze. It was like right over there on the side. And then I had a really fun one for stream. That's like you are in combat. This is a boss fight. So that if I was streaming WoW, like, you know, I made it as like this tongue, like I framed it as this tongue in cheek, like, oh yeah, it's a reminder because sometimes I don't always know, but it was really useful for when people were watching my stream that like they could have an immediate answer to like, what are you doing right now?
Yeah.
That it's like, he's in combat and this is a boss. Oh, you're doing a boss. All right. Okay. So like I miss some of the little things like that, but then also like there are elements of the one of the big problems I'm having on Evoker right now is I am pumping as preservation. Like I'm doing like my healing. I feel powerful. I feel like it's a ton of fun, and it's really clear like what I should be doing in order to like maximize my throughput and or maximize my coverage. Like my goals and the buttons I need to push to achieve those goals are really clear to me. Devastation right now is so reliant on like really fiddly micro timing of like, oh, you've got mass disintegrate available and you've got 2 charges of mass disintegrate available, so you want to cast the first one for like 75% of the bar and then go into the second, but then you need to let the second finish.
Clipping is so
before
annoying.
you need to do this clipping thing before rolling into this, and then you need to launch a pyre immediately after, and it's so reliant on basically like everything that they said they were trying to take out in terms of like, oh, you have this 3-second buff up and you need to behave this way while this buff is up, but you need to behave this way if the buff isn't up. All of that kind of interaction that they were trying to remove is alive and well in dev. And if you do not play to those like very, very tiny fiddly like decision tree elements that are behind your current buffs, it is literally like 30-40% of your damage.
And as a result, finding an actually good Devoker is so hard. I love Prez. I'm in the same boat.
It is
I love
really
it.
hard.
Devoker, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's
like,
Og, which is insane right now. Like Og is insanely
I've been
good.
back in Og a lot of times. Like, I mean, I like Og, but Og is of course comes down to like your group comp in terms of, you know, you can't carry on Og. So if we're helping like guildies just get their 10 for the week and we've got, you know, it's like, okay, well, Og's not going to do much when you're bringing in people who are just like trying to get a 10 on a freshly leveled character.
You need to have
like
pumpers.
that's the bad tool. You need to have pumpers.
Yeah.
So I've got this sort of frustration of like, I'm jumping on dev and I'm like, I'm doing okay, but I'm not doing remotely what I feel like I should be doing. And I can see the difference just between like, it's like, okay, me similarly geared warlock, similarly geared mage, and they're 20-30% above me. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing? I know how to play this class. What am I doing wrong? And the more I dig into it, it's like, the rotation alone is not enough. That it's like it's in all of these tiny interactions, and like the moment that you identify a couple of them and you start doing them better, you jump a bunch, but it doesn't close the gap. And I'm just like, I'm like, this is a really hard spec to play, like top tier right now. And it's so oblique, and I'm like, I really wish I had a couple weak auras to just like demystify when I should be doing what.
And that's one of the big struggles. I'll pass it to you in just a second, and I just have to throw in there, like, I haven't really used weak auras for fight mechanic related things in a very long time. I used to raid like cutting edge and like top 25 in the US and stuff like that. So I was really hardcore for a while. And so I used a ton of weak auras. But in recent expansions, the tells telegraphs for fights have become much better. I've obviously recognized that, like, there's, as you commented in your videos as well, there's a lot of like audible cues from bosses and stuff that actually tell you when certain mechanics are happening. They always say the same line every time. But that right there, what you just said, is something, and I've always advocated that if Blizzard's going to remove stuff, I'm okay with that, but you have to make up for it. And that's where they still, I don't think, have quite bridged that gap, is that there's so many of those little intricacies. You still can't separate certain buffs in your buff window line from other things. So
it's crazy.
The game does not still, I don't think, yet provide the amount, not even the amount of information, but in a digestible way for the player to help bridge that gap. Because otherwise, there's, like you're describing, there's so many intricacies. How do you even digest all of that?
Yeah.
So,
well, part of what makes it frustrating is that Flame Shaper End of War Within was like really clean. You did not need like a lot of weak auras to do it. It was just to use the abilities in the correct order and make the correct decision for like what type of a fight are you in? Are you in single target, or are you doing big mega pulls? And it's like, okay, big mega pulls, hit this button, single target, hit this button instead. But like your setup is the same. And it was really clean, really straightforward, and you got to blow things up and do big damn. And now like now it's so fiddly, and it's everything that they said they were trying to take out of the game. And I'm just like, that feels bad, man.
No, it's true. And I mean, I'm a simpleton. I play Paladin, and now I'm trying to play DK. So like,
thanks.
Everything's simple, but it's a good point to address that. Even though the removal of add-ons has been, I mean, it is controversial, it is difficult, and it's frustrating. It is interesting to see what they are attempting and thinking about doing in the future. It is taking, my only issue with the removal of a lot of the combat add-ons, especially weak auras, was that there was not something in its place, as Pyro and you said, Dan. So for me, I can see how there are other people who are really struggling with it. And I think going forward, if they're going to make large shifts like this, they're going to have to really implement adding much more clarity just to the basic UI that they're really working on. And I like some of the, there are many things I like about the current UI, but there's like very basic small things like, oh, I can't move my buff tracker that well, or I can't, like we've talked about, you can't decipher which buffs you need to immediately have up while you're, I don't know, while you're buffing one of your attacks. It can just really get well cluttered.
I have one major bugbear in the current UI, which is that we are now 3 expansions into this version of the UI.
Yes.
Target of target still cannot be moved. It is locked to the top left of your screen, where it used to be.
Seriously?
Back in vanilla, you cannot move it
without
using like
so
move
many
any
times. Yep.
Yeah, without using like move everything or
Such
some other like UI
I use
overhaul.
move everything exactly.
Or Blizz move, one of those two.
I don't like them because they're so like, basically my options are just to move this one thing is I either need to install one of the like UI overhaul move everything, like it takes over
like LVUI
add-ons like LVUI, move every, like I need to use one of those, or just sort of deal with it. So like you install move everything. So like let's say you have used the current base edit mode to customize your UI, and you've gotten like everything where you want it to be, except target of target. So like, how do I move target of target? And they're like, okay, well, just use move everything. So you've already customized, you install move everything, and now it's just conflicts left, right, and center because the base UI and move everything are fighting with each other for control. And it's like, all right, do you spend an entire weekend sorting that out? Do you just go back to default in edit mode and use you move everything in order to like do it all? And now you're reliant on like it not breaking when, you know, on patch day. Or like, what do you do? And I've just had to deal with it and accept that I'm not going to know who the target of my target is, which is deeply unpleasant sometimes.
Especially as a healer or a tank. I feel like you especially need to know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, and I felt that. And I mean, speaking of patch day, we just had one. We just had one come around. We've got our first mini patch, which is exciting, isn't it, everyone?
It's been a little rough.
It's been
all right.
Oh boy.
So, here we go.
Boy. We would have had Ilaria on Wednesday, but
nice.
Well, we got her on Saturday with a pared down group, but Wednesday we had a really good pull going, and then all of a sudden Gravity Slam just triggered for whatever reason. Middle of a platform, you know,
love that.
Not the actual lift portion, just the damage, just 2 strikes of Gravity Slam out of nowhere, and 5 people. I'm like, we're going good, and then 5 people just fall over dead, and I'm like, what happened? And I'm looking through the logs, and it's telling me like, it's like, oh, it was this ability. I'm like, that ability doesn't go off during that phase. It doesn't happen.
It does not.
Yeah, I saw a bug with Lura where like the lights stopped working in the last phase. They just didn't do anything. And so he just died.
So you immediately get electrocuted or whatever. Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, I guess I was gonna ask, what do we think? But okay, hold on. Before we start with the bugs, because the bugs have been crazy. My first thought, I can throw it to you guys. When Blizz decided to like, well, I guess it was Microsoft, Blizzard, whatever, decided to like gut the QA, like they've done it like 5 times in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Every time they do that, we all feel it. Like
it happens. Every single time. Every single time.
Yeah. And
then they rebuild Q&A, or they rebuild QA, and then it's like, we've got it's. And the worst part is it's always this cycle of like, clearly quarterly results are coming out.
Correct.
And they got QA on for like 4 months just to juice some Q4 numbers. And it's bad, man. It's bad. It's like, just please stop.
It is. And you know, the one thing that I was going to point to, I don't know if it's the same with you guys. Well, I mean, I know Pyro plays a couple classes, but I've been hearing a lot from just all of our raid homies saying like different things in their classes are so broken with tuning as well.
Yep.
So you've got that as well to think about. So every time we I mean, this is something that I noticed with the War Within, but certainly I can feel it now, that there is this argument that we want to be, Blizzard speaking, we want to be more responsive to changing classes and buffing and meeting the expectations of players every patch, or even like hot fixes constantly. I am overwhelmed by it at this point. I don't know if my class is good or bad by like each week, based on these buffs, these changes. And I wonder how you feel about that, Dan.
I mean, well, as somebody who spends a decent amount of time in Devastation right now, I don't know. I was looking at my breakdown, and like I was looking at my breakdown last night after we did a 12. And we timed it, but like barely. And I was just like, you know, like just looking through the numbers while I was waiting for people to decide what we were doing next. And I'm like, wait, Fire Breath? Like core ability for the like class, for the spec is that it's like, okay, you're the dragon spec, you breathe fire on things. And that's like, it's always been a very core ability, very major source of damage. I was like, it's like 4.5% of my damage right now.
Nothing.
I'm like, what? It's like, it basically like I was aghast that this core ability exists entirely 100% of its existence in the rotation right now is to give you a charge of mass disintegrate.
Everything is
I was
disintegrate.
like, oh,
It's like
I don't.
60%.
Yeah. And so I was like, that completely reshapes like what I even thought I was doing with the buttons that I was pushing and like why I was pushing them. And I was like, oh, okay, it does not. The only thing I should care about with Fire Breath is how fast I can get it out. Literally no other decision in pushing that button, which as a button that's like you can charge it up and get variable results out of it. It's like, oh no, literally the only thing that matters right now is speed, is just cast it the fastest you possibly can because its only purpose is to give you this other buff that gives you like actual damage. I was like, that's weird.
On that note, I have to say that's exactly how Og works right now, where you have Fire Breath and I think it's a Upheaval or whatever. There's the other one that you can cast it can charge, but you almost always cast it unless you have Tip the Scales or whatever it is to instant cast it at max charge. You always cast it at one charge because the amount of additional time spent charging it does not outweigh the additional ebb and might uptime that you get from casting it. That is insane design. Like, I cannot fathom that.
And that's a weird switch because it used to be that you would always cast Fire Breath at like max purely because then you would get this other thing where it's like then when the next time you cast Living Flame, you get more targets out of Living Flame. So you get like 5 free casts of Living Flame from max casting it. And that would give you like a bunch of procs that would give you like super fast casts of Rupture and it was this nice little feel. Like you would take the break of like fully charging a thing, blast it off, and then you'd get a big burst as a result of it. And now it's like, no, don't do that.
It's funny because on that note, 2 of the strongest classes, especially in the Mythic Plus meta, Devourer, Demon Hunter, and Unholy Death Knight get buffs. Resto Druid gets buffs. Like, these are the most meta classes.
It is crazy.
I did a plus 18 yesterday that I can't remember which one it was. I think it was a Magister's Terrace. We ran it with this, or no, it was after that. Windrunner Spire. I ran it with this Devourer Demon Hunter. And I feel like my damage is pretty good. This guy crushed me, dude. He did like 60k DPS more than me, and I'm like, what do I do?
What are you pushing? What are you doing? Yeah, like where is this coming from?
My class only has 5 buttons. What am I supposed to change? So I just thought that was kind of funny. Is like some of the balancing decisions recently have been kind of like just a bit of a head scratcher. Like, what the heck are we doing here? So yeah, I thought that was kind of relevant.
Yeah, no, of course, and again, back to like this patch, I find it interesting that if you're going like tier to tier, like raid tier, there's always like something big that might change like class wise. And then, our group will say, oh, maybe, we always have a DPS or a few DPS. Like maybe I'll reroll so I can maybe play that class that might be better. Shaman's getting a huge buff or whatever. But I think like when the patch is so unstable, it's just like, fuck it, I'm just going to stick with what I have. That's basically what I've been doing.
Might be top, it might be bottom. I have no idea, but we're playing.
At this point,
we'll find out.
It might be tomorrow. At this point, tomorrow, next Tuesday, we may get something else. So I don't know. But yeah, aside from that, have you guys messed around with the basic like world content stuff from patch 12.05?
I haven't. I picked up the breadcrumb quests. And that was about it. It was a really busy week for me. So like I was basically like essentially like raid logging this week.
Yeah,
all good.
So
Gamer.
It was
hell yeah.
Yeah. So I know they exist. There I will say actually, okay. Call back to the Legion discussion from earlier. I did have a moment where I went out. So like I had to go do something in Voidstorm. Oh, raid. I had to go out to raid in Voidstorm.
You should go
so I like
raid,
walked past, I walked past the NPC who's got the purple triangle over his head, and I go talk to him, and I swear it is like the most old man I have ever felt while playing this game, where he's just like, you have brought me 13 flumbuses. Check in with me later to get your Gorbus. And then your
I'll exchange it
Gorbus
for
will
another
power,
Dinkle.
I'll exchange it for a Dinkle, and then the Dinkle will empower the Forge so that we can extract the
sigils.
Why does Blizzard do this? Why do they do
that's
that?
It was so this was how I felt when I was playing Legion, in that like the final weeks of Legion, and I finally get like out into like Argus, and they're like, oh yeah, there's the Netherium Forge or whatever it was called, like in the basement of the spaceship.
Yeah.
And you go down and it's got the two halves, and each has this like talent tree associated with it, and they require like a currency that I had never seen before in my life, and it's just all of a sudden throwing all this information at me, and I'm like, you know what? Expansion ends in 2 weeks. I feel like I can ignore this.
And largely that is correct.
Yes.
So like I'm like
yeah.
and I had somewhere to be, right? So I'm not going to sit here and like decode, like, so it's like it's this kind of like creeping notice this, like I'm just kind of like scanning the quest as I'm clicking accept, and then the moment I click accept and it goes away, I'm like, there were a lot of proper nouns in there. Maybe I should know what a couple of them are, but like that, what did I just agree to do? This is like suddenly seeing like, you know, loss of life and limb in the terms of service for software. You're like, wait a second, what was that? How do I get that back?
That's what I love about quests. They're like, go and purge the natural wildlife because it's annoying me. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah,
why am I doing this? And that was something that they got better in some ways in this expansion. I remember last expansion you had to get the item, the enchanted crest, to craft an item. You had to first trade your crest to get the item to do it. So I like that they made it to where it's just like, just put the crest in there and just make
put
it
the crest in there, rather than combining two sparks, rather than combining two partial sparks into a spark. Just make sparks. Just make things require two sparks.
But then you get that. And I think that's the thing that can be daunting, especially for a new player, is like, even if I know where to go to get the better gear, there may be an unnecessarily like contrived system design that makes it unclear even still. So that can be frustrating. But I love WoW, not to complain too much.
So like
we love it too much.
I guess I know that I got reroll items from that NPC.
Okay,
but then there were like, a bunch of other things after that where it was like, oh, like go do this, and then all of a sudden there's a counter like 0 out of 5. I'm like, I'm sorry, what am I? What does this do? Because he's talking about a knife, and I'm like,
we made a knife.
What is happening? What is happening? So like, I do not know what's going on over there, and like maybe that's on me for not like paying more attention, and it is flagged as like, this is an important quest. This is a systems quest.
Yep,
it's got the purple systems quest triangle, and you would think I would learn that like, hey, maybe don't just like click through those when you're busy. Maybe those ones are the ones that are really worth reading. But because it's then also like, it's written in character, it's written in lore.
I love that.
That I'm just like, that it's like, no, what am I doing? What is the importance of this? And maybe there's a point where like, you know, break the UI for it, have a different type of quest thing like pop up, like make it, don't use the normal background, just have it like pop up in the middle, like, hey, here's a system, here's how it works, here's why it matters. Like, you know, this is, you know, there was one thing that I encountered in Netherstorm where like there's the one guy off to the side where if you do weekly quests, you get a plimbus that you can use to spend on a grumbus tree to unlock grimbles. And I was just like, remember, I'm flying around clicking rocks and I'm stressed out of my mind, and I'm in the most old man plays video games mood of my life, and I come across this and I'm just like, this is gonna matter, isn't it? Like, I'm just looking, I'm like, if these trigger in raid, I'm screwed.
Yeah. And
like, I really hope that these are just like, this is just like a world content buff, and we're not going to be on week 3 and someone's going to be yelling at me like, you know, it's like, I don't see your like Nether Zerker proc going, like, what are you doing wrong? I'm like, I don't know what that is, man.
Your haste is at 1%. It should be at 4, dude. What are you doing?
And thankfully,
what are you doing
thankfully it turns out to not be a raid buff. But you mentioned something there that I love, is that they do it in character. They have it in that
I
context.
love hate that. Yeah, I love hate that because it's like it's when you have the time to like read it and soak it in. It's like it's a lot of fun and it's like it's nice. There's like lore to it. And when you don't have the time, it's you know what, maybe I delete my account.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Maybe I'm too old for this. Yeah.
It's so time consuming. As someone who I do a lot of like lore and story analysis, and that's if there's some do some reading of the books and stuff, and that's my main thing. And so I love it, but like you just said, it's immensely time consuming. And so much of WoW's story is told through reading. And so I hope this isn't too left field to kind of throw out there, but I did have a question that I wanted to ask you in terms of, one, kind of how invested in the story are you? What do you think of the storytelling of WoW? Have you read any of the books or short stories? But also, WoW is known for its kind of transmedia narrative structure in that it has the game, the books, the short stories, the audio dramas. And I was wondering if you think that's like an effective method of storytelling, if it's necessary due to the age and sheer scale of the game and its world. Just what are your thoughts about that? Do you interact
in
with
it? terms of World of Warcraft, in terms of Warcraft as a transmedia property, it's not very good at it.
As someone who specializes in it, I agree.
Yeah, they're not very good at it.
We've talked about it. Yeah.
You end up like it's really, there's a lot of fragmented stuff and they're really bad at signaling this stuff and like cross promoting it. And like there's every now and then I'll be on like the lore forum and someone will mention a thing and it's like, oh, that, this is a, like there was a thing about like, oh, they found like, okay, it was the whole thing. It's like Turalian and Illyria, like, it's like, I thought they weren't allowed to touch. I'm like, they're not allowed to touch. Wait, what? Because like, I don't care about either of these characters. I care about them now. Sure. But like I did not like previously like care about them. Like these were not characters that I was like invested in and following and learning. But like they're statues. They're they're alliance characters. I play Horde. Like my experience with Turalian is just like a head that pops up at the bottom of your screen when you're doing world quests in Argus. So like I wasn't previously invested in these characters much. They're primarily from an expansion that I barely played and have largely experienced through the lens of like crushing as old content where you just like walk through and like click on stuff and it dies. So you've got people who's like, oh, they can't touch. I'm like, they can't touch. And then someone else is like, no, they found a workaround. Wait, they found a workaround? And everyone's like, wait, they found a workaround? Yeah, it was in this comic book. And it's like, there's a comic book?
Yeah, then
that's before you get to the novel.
Yeah, and there's like, there's like an audio drama. I'm like, it's like, I was learning about like all of these like transmedia things. Like, I know that they've had these transmedia aspirations. I know there's the books, and I know Christy Golden puts her heart into books that aren't always great. But it's like, okay, the books are already sort of like this removed and they do a bad job of cross promoting them. And then you learn this, like, there's an audio drama and it's like, I'm sorry, what? Like where
on YouTube.
Where was that released?
Right.
Like,
Right. You didn't know that?
Sometimes, wasn't the Illyria and Turalian one? Didn't they release that on? I don't know if it was on YouTube at first. I think it was on their website. Wasn't it?
You mean the 1,000 Years of War and Legion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, wasn't that?
It was like a news post on the website that had an embedded link to the YouTube video.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's such a shame because that is a fucking work of art.
It's so good.
It is very good.
It's insane. Yeah. No, like I forget the name of the voice, not voice actor, but I guess he is. But he's tremendous.
Travis Willingham.
Yes, the narrator is so good.
Oh, now you're. Oh, never mind. You were frozen for a second.
The one thing that they do a decent job at is their shorts, like the animations. Most of which are actually like just sort of extracted from in-game, like they're in-game cutscenes that they've posted to YouTube, and they do a good job of like hey, like you open the launcher and they'll have a big thing in the carousel that's like, watch the new story short.
Yeah. The Liadrin one with Alonza's foul was
So good.
super good. Yeah, super good. Before we move to the next point, actually, before I forget about this, I have a little ADHD brain, so pardon me here. We talked about briefly Harandar earlier and how there are some pretty obvious like seams that begin to show that illustrate that it was in fact supposed to be part of the war within. I think that stuff, some of that is obvious because we have been told that the World Soul Saga was restructured from a single expansion, which is
Yeah.
insane to try to even comprehend, and
I can't.
into a trilogy, right? One of the questions that I was curious about what you thought, if you had any ideas, was had Harandar not been the third or fourth zone, excuse me, of the current base expansion, do you have any thoughts of what it could have been or what you would have liked to see given the context and the region or anything that we're in?
I think if it had taken the place of Undermine, that patch would have sucked.
Okay.
I don't think
Wasn't ready, probably.
yeah. Well, not only was it not ready, just on a structural level, like the way that you move through Harandar and the things that you can do with that space aren't well suited for what a mid-expansion zone needs to enable. And the thing is I would point at Undermine, like minus the fact that they decided to make the rep grind with the 4 sub-factions just like a year and a half long. Like that's a numbers issue. Yeah, I gave up. I finished 1. I still haven't done the other 3.
I didn't even finish 1.
I couldn't continue.
Screw it. I'm out of here.
Yeah. And that's a numbers thing, right? Like that's purely like how much rep you get per week. Like that's a numbers thing. But otherwise, like I would say that Undermine is like a great example of what a mid-expansion zone should be in terms of being like a place that convinces the player that you just kind of want to hang out here. There's stuff to do, and it like there's sort of a perfect point of like friction and non-friction, and it's like, okay, here's the car that you can run around in, and like doing the crap for Tallulah is fun.
Yeah,
it's just like you get to zip around and you've got this really fun voice actor who is great job, Toots.
Yep.
You're my favorite. Like that's a lot of fun, and that convinces you to just like spend time in the zone. And the issue with Harandar is, I would say, like infrastructure. Like it's got these sort of like levels to it that make it just physically difficult to navigate at times. And there isn't like a clear the little city in Harandar, if that was the place that you were expected to just like hang out for a patch, like if that was going to be your idle spot because it's like, oh, the raid's over there, all your new world quests are there, like, this is where the new rep is that you need to get to, you need to like grind up to renown 9 so that you can get the mythic belt before week 2. Like if that was the space, like if that was physically like what the space that you were supposed to inhabit, no.
Yeah, I don't think
like
that would have gone
town
well.
that town is like, it's fine as a place that you're just sort of like rapidly going in and out of, and you've got a couple quests in it. But if that was the like hangout spot, if that was your hub, like that would not be enjoyable. So I would say, like in retrospect, I think one of the main reasons why Harandar got sort of backbenched is they were like, this is not appropriate for the like what it needs to do in the context of a mid expansion zone. It's a little too big. It's a little too varied. There's so much sort of going on with it. And maybe the original goal was like, oh, we're going to make the mid-expansion zone, and the mid-expansion zone is going to feel like a launch zone, right? It's going to have the level of like geographic complexity of a launch zone rather than being just an island. And I think in that they realize like, oh, we bit off more than we could chew and it's not going to be done in time. We've got different aspirations for the scope of the expansion. And actually, maybe that's not a good idea for a mid-expansion zone. Maybe we've settled into a rhythm of what a mid-expansion zone looks like for a reason, because of like, you know, the way that the players interact with it. And doing a full, like doing a launch zone, just sort of like foisting that on the players. Maybe that's not the correct call. And I think Harandar sort of like plays that out in a way where I'm like, it's like if I suddenly like jumped into this in, you know, in 10.2 or whatever, I'd be like, this is a lot. This is a lot to navigate. There's a lot here. There's a lot of like frustration. And I think you need the framework of leveling to incentivize. Like, I think the big thing is that the guidance of leveling and the incentive of leveling and the incentive of story quest is the thing that actually, and like the length of leveling, you know, that you're expected to be in this zone for X number of hours while you're doing the initial leveling. And that's what sort of, and
like 20 hours
and that's
with all the side quests.
Boy,
I do all the side quests as I do the zones.
Right,
so
right.
Harandar was exhausting.
Harandar is really long. There's a lot to do. I'm still not done it. It's the one that I'm not done yet. And
right, that it is the structure of it. It's not.
And it's the thing is that, like, you know, it's like, okay, well, because you're going to be leveling through this and we expect you to be here for X number of hours, that is the thing that dictates a leveling zone needing to then have its like sub zones that have unique biomes within them. And mid expansion, you know, any zone that's being added where it's the expectation is that the players are already at level cap and they're going to have basically like a tier's worth of storyline that just sort of needs to like weave through that, is that it's like, okay, it doesn't need the Rift of Allen over here. It doesn't need this plateau over here. It doesn't need like this light, this light infection over here. It's just like, it's too much. And like, if that came out in place of Undermine, like players just wouldn't have finished it. I mean, players didn't finish Undermine as it was, and it is not a long zone, and it's very compact and it's very easy to get around, and you're given tools to make it even faster to get around. And even still, like, you know, level capped players will just be just like, okay, is there power waiting for me at the end of this?
Yeah, I think that's...
And they'll already jump off on that. And if Harandar had been in that place, I'd be just like, it would have been a disaster of a mid patch zone.
That's a really good point. And I think that's one thing that sometimes in the analysis of WoW, some players may not think about enough. Like, they'll think about things in terms of like in-universe perspectives, which is great because that's what I spend a lot of my time trying to get people to think about, but also from the developmental side of things, as you're identifying, like, does this actually fit structurally for what we want out of the zone? There's so much intricacy that goes into that thought process, right? But then also I was kind of wondering, like, if we didn't have Harandar in Midnight, I wonder what we would have gotten for the fourth zone in Midnight. And that's Olwenn and I have talked about, of like, on the loading screen, the art that it shows for the Northern Eastern Kingdoms area shows Eastern and Western Plague Lands and kind of gets over into some of those areas. So I think it would have been especially cool, since we saw hints of the Scarlet Crusade, not only in the Eretor questline, which takes us to the Plague Lands, but also in the Liadrin cinematic short where she and Alonzus get attacked by them, considering they have an old hub there and stuff. It would have been so cool, and who knows, maybe they could still do it for patch content. But getting an updated...
Maybe the last one?
Yeah, like getting an updated Eastern or Western Plague Lands, because that's a very iconic area, too.
Skolomance and Strath.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I think... That I think is definitely delving into the realm of like, okay, in a frictionless universe where where the artists and developers have infinite time and resources without the like corporate pressure, that it's like, but like overhauling either of the Plague Lands, even a corner of the Plague Lands, would be a non-trivial, like a very large project. Especially like to bring it up to the quality of what they did with like Ghostlands. So I would love to see that, but
it's a little
I
copium.
can definitely see it's a little copium of like, it's like we weren't getting that instead of Harandar, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like
fair enough.
If Harandar hadn't been backburnered, it's like, no, if Harandar hadn't been backburnered, you would have gotten we would have gotten probably that troll island that's like that Titan island that's off the shore. That would have been Zone 4.
A Talutech or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still excited for that, and that could very well end up being
that'd be fun.
People think that's what the 12.1
It's
is
almost
gonna
certainly 12.1.
It has to be. Yeah.
Like you if you whirling surge, like you can get far enough in to see that, like, okay, it's populated with doodads and stuff. Like it's ready to go on a terrain level. Yeah.
But that brings me back to the patch real quick, just because I did a lot of the world content kind of soup this week to check it out.
Yeah.
And the Void Assaults, not so much the ritual sites, not yet, because I have a suspicion they bounce around. But right now with Void Assaults and the Abyss Anglers, right now at least, they're really focusing in on ZA. So I can see them using these fun. I mean, the idea of going back to ZA, stopping these Void Assaults, whatever, and then bringing you right into that next troll zone for 12.1. And just to really just say, for people who have played patch 12.05, I think the world content stuff is fine. I think it's what we've seen 1,000 times. It's the same stuff we see 1,000 times. You go kill bosses, you go fill up, you go fill up a bar.
There's an invasion.
Exactly. And you got someone on the top of your screen yelling at you again. And this time, it's just, the reason why I'm enjoying it is because the ritual sites are interesting. They remind me of sort of a mixture between sort of like 3 or 4 different styles of solo play. It has a little bit of, I wouldn't say, a bit of Torghast, but in a different way, where you're actually choosing extra challenges for yourself, but also island adventures. It's actually decent. It doesn't have the same, like, you're going to be attacked by a different faction, but it has the same kind of layout. So I've been enjoying it. It's basic, it's simple, but you can find different powers that will level that'll make it easier for you, as well as like things that'll make it more difficult, and then you get achievements, right?
Well, it's kind of like delves too, in a way. You kind of queue into it.
It's exactly. And the delves I've enjoyed. Yeah.
The delves are good. You called it soup, and I think the most damning indication of the soupness of it would be the fact that, like, WoW had to put out, like, they put out a post that's like, the 4 different void adjective, void noun things. Like, here's what they are, because you void assaults versus void incursions versus void
sites or ritual
sprouting
sites.
Or sites, or like what it's like, like, what are these things and where are they? Like, there's so much like overlapping things that just like, if you're not plugged in, they sound like the same thing. And you could be it's like somebody in guild's like, oh, have you been doing your void incursions? And someone's just like, yeah, I have.
I think
I have. I've been out in Void Storm for like days doing the void incursions, and it's like, no, that's the void assault.
right. No, but it's true, because when I started, when I was doing it on one of my alts, I was like, okay, so let's just jump in and see how this works. And I kept doing the wrong quest for the wrong thing because I wanted rewards from the other. So I was like, oh, I can't wait to go do Void Assaults. And I do Void Assaults. I'm like, I'm just getting like cheap rewards. And I spent all this time on those. Then I realized, oh, I have to go do the instanced thing that ratchets up its difficulty. And then I was like, oh shit, I should have spent my time doing that, and I'm getting lost all over the place. So yeah, I think this brings up, and there's also for some reason, well, it's okay. I don't want to knock these, but there's decor duels, which I haven't tested.
I haven't done one yet, but we're gonna do some guild decor duels once they fix the Worgen track humanoid
basically
shit.
Yeah. Right.
The main thing that I've experienced of the decor duels is someone in guild got 19 achievements at one time somehow for something. I'm like, I don't know if that was a bug or if they're just like that broken that you can check off that many boxes simultaneously. Like, I was
A lot
like,
of achievement
what
points
is
Olwen, we got to
going
get on this. We got to get that achievement number up.
Listen, I love getting my achievement number up. That feels good. And there's also Abyss Anglers, which it's not great.
What is it? I heard Crystal
Yes.
told me what she heard from Drew, which he heard in guild chat. So like I'm like, it's fishing related, but it's not, but it's a new fishing mini game that is similar to Stardew, but it doesn't actually, but it's like only aesthetically fishing. It doesn't actually give you fish or level your fishing or give you anything for fishing. It just uses the language of fishing for a whole new, entirely isolated mini game. I'm like, are you on crack right now? Like, what are you talking about?
Sounds about right.
I'll tell you this. I think it sucks, and I don't know why it's in the game. The big reason why is because I actually like fishing. I like, doing all all the different fishing achievements. I've enjoyed that. Yeah, and also there's some fun stuff you can do with it. This is not that. Okay, so again, another instance mini game. You jump in, you put your suit on, you dive underwater, and when you just jump into the water, in front of you are a bunch of different fish that have different levels of armor or none at all.
Okay.
And you have 3 buttons. One of them is to dash forward, and the other one is a harpoon. When you use your harpoon, it doesn't. You know how sometimes when you're in you're one of these vehicles.
In a vehicle, yeah.
And you're going to shoot some. There's a vector that lines up, then you shoot. Well, there's no vector until after you've released. So it's like you have to line it up just before.
Blind?
Yeah, basically. And okay, I think
I haven't played it yet.
I tried about 3. Listen,
what's okay? The important thing then is what's the cooldown on the harpoon? Because if it's longer than 1 second,
it's just to manually reel it in with your.
No, it's a normal global. 1 second, boom.
Okay.
But the thing is about it is it's so awkward.
Yeah.
Because first of all, in WoW, listen, Vashir is one of those zones where people say they love it, they hate it. Underwater stuff is not easy in the game.
No.
So when you throw me in there and then you're having me navigate that volumetric space in a way that has to be kind of quick and edgy and like actually effective, it's bad. It feels very uncomfortable. So I did I'd say 3 or 4 rounds today. And I was like, nah, this is not it. It's and also here's the thing that bothers me. It's one of those classic like mini games where you're going to get like these great rewards. Okay, so I get some more doodads that I can up, but it's just for upgrading your stuff and maybe getting like a pet or something. Not even like I wanted a cool underwater mount. None of that. So it's not good.
See, now the original description that I got sounded way better. In that, like, oh, it's a new little mini game that's like Stardew for fishing. My immediate thought was like, okay, they're in the same way that dragon riding was sort of this like, okay, maybe we overhaul how flight works? Question mark. How do you all feel about it? Like, is this an expansion feature or is this a new core feature? Right? Like, are they like? Are they testing out like, hey, so we're thinking of overhauling fishing because the click system has obviously been boughtable for 21 years now. Maybe we need a new fishing mini game. Maybe our fishing mini game is out of date. How do y'all feel if we just implemented Stardew? And like, that was my initial thought, but this does not sound like that.
I'm in the same boat as Dan where like I picked up some breadcrumb and I really haven't done much else. But that's one of the things that I love about Jagex, because I came to World of Warcraft 15, a long time ago at this point for me, from RuneScape, because they were basically going to change it into World of Warcraft with action bars and all that stuff. But that's one of the things I love about how they handle it is they do player polled content and stuff, and they're just very transparent. They'll just say like, yeah, we're not happy with the way that this skill works. We want to add a mini game or whatever that's going to make it more interesting and fun to level. Test it out. Here's what we're thinking about doing with it. Let us know what you think. And so on the note of like what you were saying, Dan, as is like, is this a test to do something more in the future? If it is, God, please just like tell us so that we can give feedback and make it better. Because like you said, fishing is easily botted and not exactly the most exciting. And you don't have to get rid of the old version, but give us alternative ways to level and make it interesting and fun and faster pace if that's what you want. So I would love to see more of that out of Blizzard.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, maybe they change it so that and this is just completely wandering off into the weeds, but it's like, okay, you change the interaction with pools. So it's like, okay, like open water fishing uses the old system, and you just make the rewards for open water fishing even worse than they have been. I mean, historically, like for a long time now, open water fishing has been mid, though this expansion is actually pretty good, mostly because pools are bad. That it's like, okay, make your interaction with like pools are the primary source of things. Change the interaction of pools. So instead of like walking up and trying to cast and like land in it, players just walk and they right click on the pool to interact with it. And then it comes up, just lifted from Stardew. You've got a little thing. You got a little thing, and you got, you do the quick little, you do your little button mashing to, little skill game that is difficult to bot. And the better you are at the skill game, the better. And when you've finished leveling everything up, and obviously like the skill game gets like substantially easier, blah 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 blah. They could just, that would be a way of doing it. They could just change fishing at this point. Screw it, just change fishing. You got rid of you killed first aid. Like just change fishing.
Yeah, and after fishing, I've said it'll probably come out in the Last Titan, but archaeology needs a massive
I would kill for
it because I love it. I love the idea.
I do love the idea. I think we are entering the phase of WoW where more than at any point in its history, it will be accumulating vestigial systems that they're just accepting that like, nope, that's going to sit over there. We're not excising it from the game because there's too much there, but it will just sit there.
It's kind of like pet battles. They just kind of discontinued it.
Oh yeah.
They just kind of discontinued it. Archaeology they discontinued, and I don't think I don't think these are like going to get overhauled. I don't think they're going to get revisited. I think like the only one of those that at this point I think they might come back to would be glyphs. Purely because interacting with them is so. I mean, because it's kind of in this like odd spot where like there's just enough ongoing interest in interacting with glyphs in current content for specific classes that people do need to like figure like, wait, what do I need to do? And it's like they got to dig up like Cataclysm era guides on like how to actually like do stuff, or I guess it would be like MOP era guides, because after they gutted and overhauled the thing, that like glyphs are the only one that I could see them going back to and being like, okay, we're gonna tidy this up. But I think at this point, like archaeology as it currently exists is done. And it is like self-contained enough that they're just like, look, anyone who wants to do that can go back and do that, just the same as if they wanted to go farm Apexis crystals.
That's true,
in Ogre Law.
People wanted to farm Apexis crystals. I just did it because I felt like I had to.
No, but I guess it's a good point, because they've already decided one of our big systems that we want to sort of bring in that would, it's again, archaeology doesn't have anything to do with actual sort of at the time current items you could get. Some weapons were okay, but again, it's not about player power. But my thought would be like, if they would ever tie even old archaeology quests then to housing, because housing has added this massive space for something where maybe you don't want to do a full rehaul or overhaul, I should say, of archaeology, but at least bring it into some relationship with housing.
Right. You could toss in some. I think if they did anything there, they would take like the existing assets. Like there's the one. So like in Legion and BFA, as you completed the various like collect 10 billion fragments achievements, there's like the display hall that would fill with like the doodads, and the doodads would upgrade based on like how many of those you had completed. That feels like the easiest one to just be like, oh, all of those doodads already exist. We just need to tie them to we just need to connect them to a housing item and then connect that housing item as a reward to the achievement. That would maybe I could see them doing that, but I could just as easily see them taking all of that, taking their current version of archaeology, which is the like mysteries and
Secrets of Azeroth kind of thing.
The secrets of Azeroth slash the investigation site things in Dragonflight. Take that, put in a new one of those, and like it's got the aesthetic, like, and again, that's just, it's like we're using the aesthetic of archaeology to otherwise like, here's a currency, here's a thing, and maybe it's like, okay, they'll create one of those and they'll just have a rotating cast of characters from previous expansions that show up, and it's like, oh, we're doing Drust archaeology, and that's where you would get the doodads
you get
from.
Such cool lore in that too as well. Like,
that's true.
That'd be so sick. And to me,
this, I mean, the Drust archaeology, like, the BFA archaeology, there was a lot of interesting things there, but then players realized that like, oh, the goal of this is actually to collect like 7,000 knives.
Yeah.
Heck, we really only need a couple to understand what they were cutting with them. To me, what this all kind of sounds like, and this is something I'm very passionate about, so I'll soapbox briefly here about it, is it's adjacent to a sense of horizontal progression for your character. And I feel that that's something that World of Warcraft lacks very seriously, is that like, there's so much opportunity, whether it's archaeology or even fishing, whatever, things to grant permanent, not overpowered, but quality of life or like meaningful kind of boons to your character. A teleport here, similar to what they do with Mythic Plus dungeons now.
Yeah.
Right.
I would love to see more of that in WoW. I just feel like when I think back, I think about like what actually is there that's evergreen horizontal progression for my character. And I genuinely, besides Mythic Plus portals, I genuinely can't think of anything that's meaningful to me. Like, transmog to me is a cosmetic, it doesn't really matter. You know, mounts to me is a cosmetic, it doesn't really matter. What can I actually speak to of like, what did I unlock 10 years ago that still actually matters to me now?
Right.
That will help me. Yeah.
And there's like a handful of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like a handful of things every now and then where it's like, oh, I'm trying to think of a good example of like, oh, you need to get out to this place. Well, if back in the day you had done this quest line and gotten this toy, it will give you
old challenge mode dungeons. It's a good example.
There's that. I also think of like Jaina's locket from the ICC quest for Shadowmourne. It just directly takes you to that. Like, it's just a teleport. So yeah, exactly. There's that. I think there's the Black Temple trinket that just takes you there. So yeah, no, it's exactly like that. Yeah.
I mean, I guess the real question is what can they offer players that isn't just teleports?
I think prestige rewards. That's what RuneScape does. Prestige rewards. If I spend a certain, like, I have at this point like 650 mounts, and I was rewarded in Dragonflight a mount that can swim and it can go on land and it can fly, but only standard flying. And it's like, okay, like what the fuck is that? So I guess that it's, even if it's prestige rewards in I'm going to bring up RuneScape again. I love that game. You have skill capes where once you get your certain skill to max level, you get there's a perk that wearing the cape allows to your character, whether it's a permanent light source or whatever it might be per skill, or even if it's just something to kind of like just to flex. Like, if you unlock a certain amount of transmogs, you should get a special transmog to signify that kind of thing. Like milestone kind of achievements. I feel like WoW really needs that.
The closest thing that they have to that is the like, so like I flex sometimes by sitting around in Silvermoon with my Veil Strider title on, riding Tyven, you know. You know, and now granted, Tyven you can still get, but like Veil Strider you can't get anymore.
What is that from?
Shadowlands completionism. The meta achievement, if you completed it before before Dragonflight
That's a badass
came out,
title too, to be honest.
you got
It
Veil
is,
Strider.
yeah.
That's pretty sick.
And it's like, it was actually like, I really liked that achievement. Like I'm a bit of the Shadowlands defender in regards
Dude, if
to
I could
like,
shake your hand for
Nice.
this, I would.
yeah, you know, like don't get me
Nice.
wrong, like Shadowlands is there were a lot of systems problems with it. There were some like very devastating tuning decisions that they made with like how hard the end bosses were, like even just for ahead of the curve, and like the gear rewards that you got that, like, you know, Castle Nathria did not outgear Castle Nathria. Like if you could have an entire raid in heroic, like fully in heroic gear, and
Didn't matter.
Didn't matter. Sire was still required you to bring only your, like, you know, you couldn't carry. You could not carry Castle Nathria in the gear that dropped in Castle Nathria.
We could have a whole podcast on Shadowlands.
We could have
alone,
a whole.
I swear to God.
We could have a whole thing on that.
I have
but
so
like,
many.
Special
I have so
podcast
much
about
narrative thoughts.
about Shadowlands is good.
But like a lot of the like individual content in Shadowlands was good, and a lot of things they like pulled together sort of at the end. And so like I have a soft spot in my heart, particularly for that achievement, even though portions of it were like an unbearable grind. That it's like that the text for the achievement is left things in a better state than you found them.
Oh yeah,
I like that. That's cool.
I haven't done that meta because it's really long, but I will.
It's
get around
really
to it
long.
eventually.
It's really long.
Did you like Zareth Mortis and like the fractal concept that they posed there in that final zone of the expansion with the Sepulchre of the first ones?
So Nathan and I had a lot of thoughts about Zareth Mortis, and basically like Zareth Mortis was better than Shadowlands deserved in terms of.
I think it's one of the best zones ever made. I really do.
Agree.
Yeah, it's a good zone. Like it's fun to hang out in. It's lovely, like gorgeous art design. Music's good. The raid was like big, epic, eye-catching. Cool. Had some like really crowd-pleasing moments. You know, the race for world first was asterisk, but you know, it had the race for it had some. Yeah, Halandris was like a real peak in that race for world first when people were still hype before the jailer jail set in.
And even now, I look at the intricacies of it. I'm like, well, technically, the Primus is behind the jailing of the jailer, and the Titans order the Shadowlands, and like he's experiencing the memories of the Primus. So, but it's so hard to bring all of that complexity to a discussion and be like, well, it might actually be kind of good.
It might actually be, you know, like, but and like jailer jail was Jailer Jail was a mechanical thing. Like the fight was just like insanely hard.
Oh, the fight mechanics. I see. I'm sorry, I missed.
Yeah, the fight mechanics, and then also like I've got asterisks on the jailer. Like it's like, yeah, you know, the big bad is just is a robot.
No, he said it. He said the thing.
I said the thing. He's not a robot. No, I know he's not a. I know he's not a robot, but like he is.
Dan,
like,
you can leave.
But the thing is that like you see why people like sort of kind of like came to that conclusion.
Yes.
Like there were a lot of like very
sure.
fraught.
Yes.
There were a lot of very fraught story decisions made, and I think they are slowly unwinding the damage done by the decision to be like, actually, this guy was behind literally everything that has happened in lore up to this point.
Fucking say it, and like, it's there's too much, and that's where the transmedia narrative, especially with, and I promise we won't talk about Shadowlands too long. We got to get on to the videos that you've made.
Yeah.
But there's so much. There's the transmedia narrative of information they gave about the Primus in the book. So if you didn't read Grimoire of the Shadowlands, there's so much that you missed there, and like you have to really pay attention to like how soul binding works, and like what do Morn blades like Kingsmorn and Frostmorn actually do, and like how do they function. It's so much. It's to the point where like Blizzard
like soul splitting too.
Soul splitting is oh my god, don't get me started. They try to be too intricate and like too subtle though, and it kind of flops.
For an MMO that is otherwise written like a soap opera, like a Saturday morning soap opera.
Yep. And I have a question about that for you eventually. Yeah.
So like and I think a lot of people get particularly sour on elements of Shadowlands purely because like it starts off with this very sort of fun thing of like, it's like, oh, okay, this architecture and these other things, like we're sort of like rewriting their origin, but the initial way it's presented is more like these are ideas that have like leaked out of somewhere. Right.
Yeah.
That it's like Icecrown Citadel looks the way it does because like because like not because it was like, you know, built by so and so, but because like those ideas like leaked out.
Yeah.
And inspired, and there's like, you know, very like nebulous influence, and then they like they take that and then they take that and just kind of ratchet it up to 20 and are like, well, actually no, like the jailer smuggled plans for Icecrown Citadel out, and like, you know, here's the blueprints along like you know, along with the architect seal and everything, and it's like, oh, okay, no, you've gone too far.
It's a lot of going backwards.
Yeah. That it's like, no, just like, you know, because that initial sort of pitch is that it's like, oh, like why are there Ziggurats in Maldraxxus? And it's like, it's left sort of vague of like, okay, is this the like culture of Maldraxxus leaking into our world, or is this people dying and bringing their culture into Maldraxxus and being like, okay, well, we're gonna build our stuff, and you know, and because a disproportionate number of liches end up in Maldraxxus, you end up with a lot of like, you know, it's like okay, that's fun, and that's just sort of like artists riffing off a thing, but then you try to like, then they try to explain it, and then the explanations are bad, and that pisses people off.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because one of the biggest underlying themes of Shadowlands is the question of what came first, the chicken or the egg. The first ones are very much like that. The architecture, the Zareth Mortis even is discussed. The word Zareth doesn't mean cornerstone or keystone, because one of those is at the start and one of them's at the beginning, or at the end, excuse me. Yeah, so which one came first? So yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because there's almost like a meta breach there, where like that's happening in the design philosophy of it as well. And I'm assuming that's not intentional, but yeah, there's a lot of problematic things. But I think to go back to what you said initially, it's another one of those expansions, and Legion is so well regarded, which I think is funny, because having played it at the time myself, holy shit, there's some bad system design in that expansion.
Dude,
and
AP's crazy.
It's insane. I mean, BFA was the same way. So it's so plagued by system issues, and it's you get this specific thing that was really not fun to interact with, and that can at times inform the greater perspective and memory of what the thing was.
Yeah.
You know, you have a great meal at a restaurant, you pick out a bone from something that wasn't supposed to have it, and now that's what you remember versus the rest of the nicety of the meal. So so yeah, it's very unfortunate. But you have to move to a different topic here. You and those who have helped you guys have you've put out some amazing videos, especially as it pertains to WoW Classic and what we left behind, and why it's rude to suck at WoW. Just to gush a little bit, incredible videos, so well made. I found myself hooked from the very beginning. And an hour in, I'm like, holy shit, this is still going, but I'm here for it. So just wanted to say, amazing job.
Thank you. So so just to give like credit where credit is 100% due is and to explain a bit of the backstory on those two videos. So Classic and what we left behind was an idea that I came up with while I was streaming Classic with my friend Nathan, and then Why It's Rude to Suck at Warcraft is a script that Nathan had written. Like, he had written this giant, basically like paper on all of these ideas that were just kind of like spilling out of him while he was working on Race to World First. Like, he was one of the behind the scenes support staff analysts for a RWF guild, and all of these things that he was seeing sort of like spill out. And that was during the Sepulchre. This was during the Sepulchre Race to World First, which, you know, Jailer, everybody was staring at that fight, and the systems that were going on, and the way that like add-ons were being implemented into that fight, and everyone, like literally like everyone at Blizzard, everyone in the RWF, everyone watching the RWF just sort of looked at it and simultaneously went, this is unsustainable. And it will probably remain, like, Mythic Jailer will probably remain the hardest fight in WoW ever. And like Razagath gives him a run for his money, but even then, like,
some say Mythic
Jailer
Lura
will probably be
actually,
you know what Mythic Lura
Nice.
Mythic Lura, like, we said that at the time, but now I'm looking at Mythic Lura, I'm like, okay, I don't know, maybe you know, maybe these sickos have more more in them.
Bias, but it's crazy.
Yeah, but like, I would suspect recency bias. Like, it is hard, it is easy to forget, like, just how cracked Jailer was in terms of like what players were expected to do and how fast they were expected to do it. And so all of these, like, ideas came spilling out of him, and he had like pages and pages and pages of stuff. And he's like, hey, I want to make this. I would feel bad if this content, like, if I made it, this is insane, it's like, if I made it and put it on my YouTube channel where it got seen by like 15 people, you know, this is a discussion that deserves deserves a bigger audience. And so I'm like, okay, let's take it. And so we took it as a project, and basically, like, my contribution to that script was like tone, wording, sort of like fine tuning it into being like a YouTube video rather than a paper. But that is like 90+% Nathan. So I would actually, like, you should absolutely get Nathan on, because like our opinions of modern WoW have diverged pretty significantly. Or I shouldn't say our opinions, our experiences have diverged pretty significantly. He's not playing Midnight basically at all. He's playing Mop Classic, which has, boy, is there stuff going on over there that's like wild. So yeah, like that video is very much like his baby, his brainchild. My work on it was like overwhelmingly aesthetic and bringing, like, I don't want to like necessarily like downplay what I did, but it was very much aesthetic. It was formatting. It was like, okay, like, what order do we put things in? How do we like present this information? But in terms of like the content, I was like, absorbing a lot from him that he brought to it, and like I was catching up with him in terms of like taking all of these papers that we reference and reading them to make sure that I knew what was in them and whatnot. And that's why he's like, that is why we very deliberately like included him as a he's one of the other like narrators of that video.
And he did an excellent job with that as well.
I know. It was nice seeing him like talk and actually express.
He was with BDG, right? Big Dumb Guild, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Gamers, dude. Gamers. Well, it's very noble of you to highlight that, and respect where it's due. It was an amazing video. So to both of you and Nathan, it was wonderful. And I admittedly am more new to the content that you make than Olwenn. But I watched when I first started getting into it. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, where I gotta listen to more of this. And that's when I watched the Mr. Beast video, and I was like, "Damn! Like, this is it's so intellectual and critical, but in a respectful way. And you guys, where to poke the fun where it needs to be, and to where the brutal honesty belongs. And it's very good. It as someone who has made YouTube videos for 10 years now, it's inspiring to look at it and be like, damn, like there's levels to this, and there's always something more to aspire to. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. You're very welcome.
So
Olwenn, did you have any I don't know if you had any.
Well, I mean, I've already gushed to Dan about how
sorry
awesome
if
his videos are.
not to overdo it.
No, it's all good. And listen, this is not a glazing session, Dan. We're gonna drill. We're gonna drill down on your ideas. No, okay. So one of the thoughts that I had was to think about these two videos, because a lot of has changed since 2019, 2022. And I was wondering if you think either of them or both of them need sort of an update, a footnote, an addendum, considering WoW Classic is seemingly moving towards certainly there's a seasonal and there's sort of a bifurcated different style of playing WoW Classic. You've got hardcore, you've got mob, you've got the TBC again, and also they're thinking about plus, I guess, from what maybe it's rumors.
So the main addendum with Classic would be, and a lot of this addendum is actually just in Wyatt's Route to Suck at Warcraft. But would really the addendum to that one would really focus on the player base fracturing that they've done by creating so many very marginally distinguished products that are available simultaneously. And it's a very weird situation, right? Like Midnight was launching, and on the carousel it's like, what version of Warcraft do you want to play? Do you want to play Midnight? Do you want to play? And there were like so many so many flavors of Classic available that they didn't even fit on the carousel. Right. Like you needed to scroll to the left, like you need to scroll the whole thing in order to find like Hardcore way off to the right or whatever, wherever it was placed in that list. And it's like, okay, that's a decision.
Especially for new players,
has been made.
How do you pick? You see like 7 versions. Like, what
how do you pick? And it's kind of like there's so many of them. It's like if you just look like just as products, it's like, okay, you have this glut of products that are trying to appeal to extremely opinionated, very narrow slices of players. Of like, it's like, no, I want to play Burning Crusade. And only Burning Crusade. It's like, okay, so we're going to keep like a version of Burning Crusade as a perpetual, as a perpetual game sandbox, but like game mode, like you know what's going on there, and it's like that's weird. And like MoP is in a strange place. Like Nathan was telling me the other day about how the twin consorts, if you wipe in phase 3, they're bricked for the rest of the week.
What? Like a bug?
There's a bug. There's a bug where if you wipe on twin consorts in phase 3, they will then, for the rest of the lockout, double cast every ability.
Phase 3 is just the hardest phase. Like when they both come out and you're fighting them both, no big deal. What the fuck? Yeah. That's crazy.
And that's a bug that's gone like unaddressed for months. Dorumu. Some of the lifesteal beam doesn't lifesteal, and some of the every now and then, like the fight is it's broken in an easy way, right? The lifesteal beam doesn't lifesteal, and every now and then, like the fog beasts will just show up. Like they'll just get revealed regardless of what lights were even shone on them. Yeah, they'll just appear. So like that's broken. So
it's one of
like
the best
a bunch of the
fights.
fights,
They scuffed one of the best raids of all time.
I love that raid. I know
he did. I can't remember the details off the top of my head, but apparently Li Shen involves exploiting one bug to work around a different one.
Can't get in trouble. We're just trying to fix it.
So like,
do they have like 5 guys working on this at this point?
And that's the problem. Is like, there's basically like 5 people working on MoP Classic, and part of that comes down to the fact that it's like, you know, these are products that have such a narrow appeal that they kind of dictate being run on
skeleton crew,
these like skeleton crews, and it does raise this sort of like weird philosophical issue of like, was Blizzard better off turning sort of a blind eye, don't ask, don't tell, we don't talk about it, but offloading this player base and the labor of keeping them happy onto volunteer private servers, even if those private servers were like, you know, were technically, you know, violating copyright and you know, theoretically taking subscriber money away from you know, World of Warcraft, you know, but they were also like maintaining a player base that has very difficult to serve tastes and is clearly like in a very weird labor value position. And also, like, if you sort of say like, okay, well, those players, we're not going to acknowledge this, but those players can go get their fix on private servers, and because those are private servers and they're not official, if those private servers are buggy and broken and the experience is weird, it's like, well, but it's a private server. Like, what do you expect?
And now they're seeing a lot of those private servers right now.
Not on us, and also like the players and the servers are going to say, well, hey, it's unofficial. Like, what do you want? But because they're like, it's an official product, so like if Turtle, which just shut down,
right?
If Turtle Mop is like, hey, so if you wipe on phase 3 of Twin Consorts, your lockout is bricked because they're going to double cast until Tuesday. That's a thing that happens because it's a private server.
Right.
If that's happening on official servers, it's like, hey guys, so Twin Consorts bricks itself if you wipe in phase 3.
Yeah,
it's kind of comical though. It's a bit comical, I have to admit. But I think it's a good point to sort of illustrate the labor problem here. I think once Blizzard decided, okay, we're going to really invest in Classic, my thought was it's going to go Classic, Classic Plus. And I think at Seasons of Discovery, I was surprised to see TBC, Wrath, Kata, Mop, etc. And my thought is like, when do they stop? Are they going to stop with Shadowlands? Or like, where is their era kind of stop? I mean, I don't know.
Broadly, like, I think a lot of people are sort of like, it's like, okay, Mop is the end point.
I think so too.
That's what I thought.
With Warlords of Draenor, you have to, like, so much content was cut. I really don't think that like you can go there.
A WoD Classic would be fascinating, but then like the only reason to do WoD Classic would be to get to Legion Classic.
Right. Yeah, it's just a hurdle.
They've already done the remix,
which is sort of like
different.
Yeah. And there was like, okay, and there were a lot of opinions about that as like Cataclysm as well, right? Like Cataclysm Classic, like, is Cataclysm Classic going to exist? Well, yes, probably purely because on the other side of Cataclysm Classic is Mop Classic. And, but so like it gets, like by the time you get to like Legion Classic, like Legion is fundamentally like is visibly a modern WoW. Like, even though it's like, X years old at this point, pushing 10, you jump into those systems and you're like, this is retail WoW. Sure, my class balance is different, and like abilities have been moved around, but like in the diminishing returns in the design space, it's like, this is modern WoW. We're playing retail at this point. So like, does a Legion Classic make literally any sense? And not really as a product. That's 2 more expansions worth of fracturing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then like WoD Classic, like, what is WoD Classic? I think WoD Classic would be a fascinating exercise purely as like, how does WoD play out on a compressed timeline?
Yeah.
Right. Without like broken server issues at the beginning.
Without broken. Yeah. So like, how does WoD feel if WoD is experienced in like 8 months instead of
28?
The last raid was like 14 months, dude.
Yeah, instead of having a 14 month, like, like how does WoD feel in that? But then like at the same time, that's a really, really, really good candidate for a remix target.
Yeah, and I think Legion remix was great, and Mop too. Yeah. I started in Mists of Pandaria, so I love the expansion. I think thematically, some of the Eastern philosophical perspectives provided with the Shaw and the inner fighting the kind of inner demons and stuff is incredible. But similar to what you had identified in the Why It's Rude to Suck at WoW video, when I tried Classic with my friends, who I'd been friends with since high school, we had played WoW retail together and Mop and WoD and some Legion and stuff. It was, as you identified, this kind of solved version of the game. And instead of being that adventure, lighthearted, like, let's get on and play together when we can and kind of just go through the world like what we did when we first played it, It was the solved game mode. It was the
Yeah.
this is the route we take. You should be level 90 by this point. And honestly, it as someone who was looking for that other experience, it just crushed me. And I wanted that experience with my friends so bad. I just disconnected from it entirely. I haven't played classic in like a couple of years now for that
Yeah.
specific reason. So when I watched your video, that really resonated with me as like, damn, like this
Well,
kind of what's the again, I have it the note here, the term that you use, the instrumental gameplay. I was like, that's all this
yeah.
shit is. It's just boiled down to fucking spreadsheets at this point. Like this isn't even fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and well,
Yeah.
and a very interesting thing that I think that's been very interesting to watch evolve out of that is that like the diminishing returns on it, right? That classic the initial launch of classic provided like a ton of, it was so big, the game was so big at launch in terms of like what you could do, and it's so slow and it's so fragmented and the stakes are so low that even as a solved exercise, like there was a ton of fun to be had just basically playing WoW Classic as a finished video game in the same way you might boot Final Fantasy VII up again.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh,
like,
such a
what,
good game.
I'll just play it as
That's
a finished
how I
game.
thought about it actually, like a retro
Yeah.
game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like playing it like a retro game. And there was a lot to that. And that just sort of like, as you go through the like each expansion, that like winnows down, like that becomes like less present, especially because, you're getting more and more modern systems, you're getting more and more content that is like currently available in the game, that it's like, okay, like if you want to experience the storyline of Cataclysm, you can. It's there right now. You can even start a character, get it up to level 20, lock its XP and play through Cataclysm as, where you're not just like one-shotting your way through things. You're not going to out-level it before you're halfway through. Like you can do the entire thing as current content,
Closer to true experience.
and like basically like experience. And the only thing that's really different is that it's like, maybe you're playing on a class that didn't exist at the time, or maybe your class, like maybe your specific spec has had its identity like pretty like significantly overhauled since then. But also like how many people are really nostalgic for the like state of class balance in Cataclysm.
Demonology
that's
Warlock
actually
cries and
Demonology
Demo Warlock.
there's like a handful,
Say.
but it's nothing like MoP, where like there's a lot of classes that are like, okay, sure, the button bloat was like absurd, but
It was fucking
class
awesome.
design in MoP was
It was
Oh,
so good.
PvP
it was in kind
everything
of this
was
really
broken.
unique space.
Everything was
Yeah.
good.
And through
Yeah.
all of that imbalance, it was balanced. It
It
was
was
awesome.
So like
Yeah.
even just like a couple weeks ago, I was like, maybe I fire up maybe I fire up MoP Classic just to re-experience like the utterly cracked first version of Windwalker, when like fist weaving was like sure, you had like one cooldown to address like big damage, but otherwise your options were like, it's like you were either doing raid wide just baseline healing for literally everyone, just like suppressing the damage noise floor, or you could single target, make one person invincible.
Yeah.
And if anything else happened, it's like you've got uplift, which you can push every 2 minutes, otherwise you're boned. Right? But it was a really, really fun version of the spec, and it's never been the same for me since they changed it. I was like, oh man, do I like relive like that version of like the mechanical space?
Yeah.
And,
Fire and Brimstone
yeah.
days. Back then you could toggle and as Warlock, you'd cast AoE Immolate, Conflagrate, all this. Oh god, it was so good. Soul swapping. Or I can't talk about it. It's gonna make me sad. It's gonna make me sad.
Yeah,
but
so you've got all these different, like, so it's like, all right, MoP kind of has like MoP Classic kind of has a reason to exist, but that reason to exist like is very systems based. It is very like, I want to experience the design and the class design and the balance that existed at that point in time, and it's not really like I want to re-experience leveling through Mists of Pandaria,
the discovery
because
aspect.
I can just go do that right now.
Yeah.
Aside from, in fact, actually, like the biggest things that were broken for years, they finally, like, they more or less got sorted out with the phasing in Veil of Eternal
Isle?
Blossoms.
Right, never mind.
With like Sora Dormy and whoever that you talk to, Zadormi, who takes you back and forth. Yeah.
So
Amazing
like,
system.
you know, it's not as, I mean, it's not as clean as it used to be, but also like it was sort of thrust upon you back during the actual expansion, where it's like, all right, Veil's busted now. You know, when that patch came out, but like, you know, you can just, aside from that one little niche that's sort of like weird and broken because of how the development cycle worked, you can just go do Emerald Forest like right now, and it is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, the quests are all there, the storyline's there, you know. It was not, you know, there's not even like, it was not a difficult expansion to level through in the first place. Like it was a very, very gentle leveling experience. There weren't any like real walls. The leveling gear was like very permissive. You got a lot of it. So, you know, it was a fundamentally modern leveling experience in that regard. So you're not missing out on like, you know, you're not missing out on like the experience of what it was really like,
Sure.
you know, in the way that like classic, you know, the base game was an extremely different tempo to how quests are designed, to how you're expected to move around the space, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, just significant diminishing returns on like the idea for why these need to exist. And I think they've got to consolidate them somehow, but how they're going to do that is a huge question mark. And there is this like, okay, is Seasons of Discovery going to morph into like Classic Plus? And if it does, who is going to be maintaining Classic Plus? Is it going to be these same 5 dudes that are currently maintaining 6 Classic products, you know, in parallel? Because all of the Classic products are basically built off of like one template. And if they're looking at bringing all of the Classic products up to Mists of Pandaria, or at least most of them up to Mists of Pandaria, like Hardcore and Seasons of Discovery, then what does that mean if Mop Classic has had these Throne of Thunder bugs for 5 months now?
Yeah. What does that look like for the future? And what does Classic Plus even equate to at the end of the day? What does it even, what does it mean? So as someone who focuses on the story of WoW, and I feel like this can kind of tie into the nostalgia or illusions of nostalgia, instrumental play, truly like emergent gameplay, getting lost in the fantasy of a world. One of my biggest frustrations about discussing WoW's story, and this is not strictly specific to WoW, as I'm sure you will both agree, is the way that at times the discussion leads to this kind of evidence that someone may be kind of, to a degree, uninformed on story aspects, common tropes in fantasy, or stories in general, themes and underlying messages. And as a result, what I see happen a lot, I live stream a lot, I've seen this recently, is people kind of stating their opinions on things as though they are objective facts, especially in cases where they're factually incorrect about things. I was curious what your thoughts on this are, because it's like a tough hurdle for me to get by. Are people sometimes maybe, are they bad at conveying their opinions as opinions instead of an objective truth? Do they have a hard time separating these two things? Why do you think that happens? How or can you even solve it? And if you can't, as a creator, especially if you're receiving live feedback and discussions on that, what do you do about that? How do you tackle that?
I think there's a 2-lane road there in terms of media literacy. So one thing is an element of being able to communicate that like your opinions are opinions, but the other is to just sort of like, you know, is incumbent on the viewer to understand like the fundamentals of rhetoric and like how people talk about things, and identify when, like, you know, because I'll talk in absolute terms about whether something is like good or bad, rather than throwing like an asterisk on everything of like, well, in my opinion, you know. But it is very clear that, like, because I feel that it's clear in the way that I'm presenting something and just in the nature of the subject matter that I'm talking about, that, like, yeah, clearly this is subjective, and, like, you know, I don't need to say in my opinion, because the things that I'm saying are so clearly like my opinion.
That's a very good point.
And, like, you know, so I think there's a, you know, there's a media literacy in both directions there,
I can
where
do
you
better.
need to be able to like present, like, you know, in the way that you present stuff, but then also in the audience, in being able to receive stuff and understand the difference, understand that somebody is talking, you know, they're using words that are absolutist, because that is a rhetorical way of expressing the, like, the intensity of their opinion, and is not necessarily like a statement on the, you know, fundamental structure of reality. So if I say like that, like, the the Sylvanas storyline is objectively bad, that is not actually like objectively true. That is highly subjective. And sure, it might be an opinion, like it might be a subjective opinion that is widely shared, maybe even consensus, but it is still subjective. And I'm using the word objective to, like, as a emphatic rhetorical element. And you know, and you can always, like, bring a counter argument, bring whatever. So I there is a 2-lane road there. And the thing that I would say, though, the thing that I would acknowledge that needs to be felt out in video game spaces in particular, is that literacy on the audience side in particular, one, it is frequently missing on the presenter side, and it is very frequently missing on the audience side. And so part of it is like, okay, knowing where your audience is and, like, coming to them in that regard. You know, if so, like, Skill Capped, an outlet that makes primarily like tier lists and primers for, like, here's the talents that you are going to put into the box in order to compete well at PvP this season. If they all of a sudden start talking about, like, the narrative structure of the expansion, they're probably going to need to meet their meet their viewers who are expecting a tier list. They're probably going to have to be like, it's like, okay, so foreshadowing is when you imply a future outcome.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
Symbolism.
and underlying the classical storytelling, repetitious fractaline patterns and stuff like that. I really appreciate that answer. And I think sometimes it's like narrative analysis for World of Warcraft is not particularly popular necessarily. It's not the most viewed content. And so I wondered as well, like, it can be particularly frustrating when you have someone, not gonna name any names, but who is not known to be versed in that topic whatsoever, kind of just saying what they think about it, and that paratextual kind of like influence upon like the Twitch sphere can really permeate how people talk about it. Like, is there anything to be done about that?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No, because the thing is that, like, effectively what you're describing is there's an influencer in a community who has influence, and people see their opinion as see that individual's opinion as authoritative. And when you boil it down to that, it's like, okay, well, yeah, duh. Like, that's just how things work. And the conflict is that it's like, okay, but I think their opinions are bad. And also, like, maybe a audience with weaker media literacy is more inclined to not like not necessarily have a healthy relationship with that interaction. And so rather than being like, oh yeah, no, I really agree with this guy, I like his takes, I like the words that are coming out of Magic Man's mouth over here, they're receiving it as like a you know, not just authoritative but like as gospel, and are thus like Risei is like, well, so and so said, you know,
almost like, and now it's not even your opinion and your thought process on it, you've just adopted someone else's. Do you even have independent thoughts about it?
Yeah, so to use a different community as an example to avoid things, you know, and this is hypothetical. I haven't seen a lot of this, but I've seen non-zero. So so in Hollow Knight / Silksong fandom, Mossbag is a like analysis, like story analysis, lore analysis, let's go through everything frame by frame kind of dork. I love his content. Like, so this is not, I'm not dragging Mossbag by any means here. Mossbag's like a really fun creator, who has put a lot of like effort into things. And every now and then you'll get somebody who has watched like a Mossbag video and they're just like, well, Mossbag said.
Yeah, you see that in League of Legends with like, another creator. I've seen that before too, and he's great. Yeah, he's great. But yeah, I've seen that.
So that's an example of like, it's like, okay, Mossbag has like, you know, good media literacy, like he knows what he's talking about in terms of story and structure and like weaving all of this together and like telling a story and telling it the way that he interprets it. And every now and then you get somebody who's just like, who just takes that as like, well, that's just the state of things, right? They boil the ambiguity out of it. They boil the interpretability out of it. They boil the poetry out of it. Because one of the things that in particular with a game like Silksong and Hollow Knight is that they are deliberately using metaphor for its strength, which is that you can communicate multiple possibilities simultaneously. You know, you can allude to, you can tell two stories at the same time, and those stories can be running like, and they don't need to be running perfectly in sync with each other. And like you're building multiple themes and there's multiple things to take out of it. And that's a mark of like really, really skillful story crafting. Yeah. And those are very like skillfully story crafted games. And so, you know, it is kind of sad when somebody like just takes one person's opinion about one thing and boils all of the nuance out of it. The complexity when we come into WoW is frequently WoW's writing is bad. And sometimes it's good.
Right.
And a lot of times it's just kind of there, right? Like that WoW's writing, like WoW is like who is writing WoW is actually this really fascinating philosophical question to ask, because it's being written by so many different people who are on a bunch of different pages. Yeah. And so you get cooks. Like I got to meet the, you know, I've met a bunch of the WoW writers over the years. That's awesome. And, but like I was at the last BlizzCon and I was just kind of hanging out in one of the hallways, like taking a break, one of the upper hallways. And someone with the blue badge comes by. It's like, oh, are you, you know, she recognized me. I'm like, yeah, you know, we chatted and it's like, and I asked her, so what do you do on the team? She's like, oh, I'm a writer. I'm like, oh, like what have you written? It's like, you know, she's like, I'm a quest writer. You know, it's like, what have you written? She's like, did you do the Iskara quest line in
Forbidden Reach?
No, Dragonflight. The walrus.
The Iskara Tuskar.
Oh, yeah. The Tuskar, like, so the funeral quest line.
Yeah,
out in Azure Span. Yeah. So it's like, did you do the Iskara quest line, the funeral out in Azure Span? I'm like, it's highlight of the leveling campaign, like absolutely top to, you know. So like I got to gush, like, yeah, no, I loved that, like amazing work there. You know, and so like the writers, you have a lot of different writers, and a lot of the writers aren't necessarily like conceptualized as writers, right? They're conceptualized as like quest designers,
right?
Yes.
So you have this role that is simultaneously like you need to write a mechanically compelling quest that like has players doing things that are fun, and is well tempoed in terms of like how many activities you get per reward unit, and like, okay, if you had them go do a click objects on the ground quest, maybe the next quest should be a go kill 10 grizzlies quest, and then the one after that should be like go talk to 3 people, rather than being like, okay, go click on 10 things on the ground, go click on 20 things on the ground, go click on 15 things on the ground. That's a bad quest chain.
Yeah. It's the same shit over and over again.
And that's mechanical writing.
Right.
And then also it's your job to that little box that comes up that people like click past, you got to fill that with words also.
Right.
And you need,
so it's kind of two things.
Like a game designer, you got to be like narratively, you got to be a writer, you have to be a fiction writer, you have to be baked into the lore. Yeah, no,
sounds kind of hard.
And you've got to be like, and so like you're getting notes on, so like it's a team effort, and you've got like lead writers who are like laying down like, okay, like here we are sorting out like a roadmap of like, all right, here's what the flow of the zone's going to look like. And then that's being like handed out, but they're not necessarily going over, in theory, they are the guiding hand, and they are going over like every word that's ending up in a text box. But also like there's a lot of text boxes, and just the way that the system is set up is there's not a lot of incentive or even like opportunity, even if there were the incentive, to be like, the writing in this quest is a little on the weak side. I don't think we're adequately building the themes of the expansion through this quest. So I think you should go back and rethink you should rethink the first like 2/3 of this quest chain to really like build up to a more satisfying narrative climax that will effectively punctuate this, which is the like 40% sort of zone progress point, right? Like that's not a discussion that's really happening very often.
Damn, I wish it could happen often, because that would make for a significantly better product.
But like, the by and large, like the way that the company is set up, the way that the process is set up, and there's so many like hands in the pie that it is more like, okay, unless a quest falls below a quality threshold into like actively bad. And from the narrative side, that is like, unless a quest ends up being offensive.
Right, at this point. Yeah, then it's going to get
probably
accepted.
going to ship.
Yeah, I appreciate you providing that perspective. It's so hard to like, when you're so narratively focused, it's hard. It's ironic because I do it with other things, but it's hard to take that step back and think about the actual process of production for it and the intricacies of each individual position, what their responsibilities actually are.
And so as a result, and then also like, so you've got the like head honcho writer who like for most of the game has been Chris Metzen and is back to being Chris Metzen, but has been different people
Steve Newser
over
for
time.
A little bit,
and they've got their goals and opinions, and you say what you want about those, but but that ends up being very like big picture, and there's talent in there that, how much of that focus is on theme and like building theme, and how much of that is on like, okay, like here's our cinematic moments, here's our like big drop moments. And I think for the most part, like, Chris as a writer is very much about the cinematic drop moments and not a lot about like, theme and metaphor. He's got a couple, but he kind of has a few wells that he goes back to very reliably, and they are overwhelmingly like, you can map them very reliably to important moments in his life of like, Chris Metzen got married. All of a sudden, like there's a lot of storylines about like settling down. Chris has a kid now. Gee, there's you know, and like people
Chris had
said this a lot
burnout.
about like, I mean, there was a whole
Yep.
phase in video games where like everybody noticed that it's like, you know, like Last of Us comes out, like Amy comes out, like, you know, the storylines in WoW, like dozens of games that people have like forgotten about at this point. You know, where it's like, okay, 15 years ago, you know, 2010 through 2015, all like actually, I guess really starting in like 2008, all of a sudden there's just this really suspiciously high density of video games about a guy learning to be about a middle-aged guy learning to be a dad.
Yeah.
And it's
Hell
like,
yeah.
gee, I wonder what's happening in the lives of all of these lead designers right
They
now
are
and all these
having
writers.
kids.
I love that.
Yeah.
There's been moments where where I think of like, oh, this grander story that's going on. Like, I wonder what Chris's relationship with his mom is like. Or shit
Well,
like
yeah,
that.
right.
Things
Like
that.
it's like
Yes.
it's, you know, it's not the most subtle stuff in the world. And
Right.
Chris is like his eye is for like the heavy metal moments.
Yep.
And you know, the big Saturday morning soap opera stuff, and just the fact that there's so many fingers in the pie,
Okay.
and there's so much stuff, and there's so much stuff that's being addressed through, like, it's just being built through a system that is where consistency isn't high on the priority list.
Yeah.
That I do not envy WoW. I do not envy Warcraft narrative analysis folks, because it's like there's so much like just so much of the author that you need to wade through in order to contextualize like literally anything.
You got to learn to roll with it a little bit.
You got to learn to
there.
you really
Yes.
got to learn to roll with it here and
Yes.
there, and just like, you know, there's so much like every time they try and harmonize the lore, it somehow makes it worse. You know, it somehow gets like even, it's like, okay, we're going to simplify the lore, we're going to clarify what did and didn't happen, and you come out the other side like, I have actually a worse idea of what did and didn't happen. You know, you get the what do they call the big like compendium
Chronicle.
The chronicle,
These
like
ones
you
up
get the
here.
chronicle. Yeah. You get those chronicles and you read the chronicles, and like then the chronicles are disagreeing with the chronicles, and you're just like,
The most recent one is especially
What?
guilty of this. It says that we fought Agrimar at the seat of the Pantheon, which objectively did not happen. Not even close. One second. I have, for some reason, your audio and video are out of sync.
oh no.
It might help to disable and re-enable the camera real quick, or let's see.
There, I turned it off and back on.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Sorry about that.
We're good.
Yeah, it is so many different fingers in the pie, so many cooks in the kitchen, so it can be difficult. Olwenn, I'm gonna pass it over to you. If you want to pick, since we're running out of time, if you want to pick, I know there's still some questions to follow up. Go for it.
No, like, I think obviously going through and talking about like story, I think at some point it'd be cool to talk more about how you view the story as Midnight progresses. So I think we'll have to have Dan back if he's willing. One thing I wanted to ask you about, and I've touched on this before with you though, but I want to go a little bit deeper on this. As a filmmaker, how do you think about the evolution of WoW Cinematics and their animation team, both like from a technical perspective, but also narrative or even cultural perspective? Or do you see a lineage, or do you see it as the same?
That's sort of it's an interesting question. It's something that I don't know if I've spent enough time really looking at it through that lens to make any like grand proclamations about it, or anything deeply insightful. I think a lot of what you do end up seeing just descriptively are these sort of expressions of the development pipeline where, you know, an idea like you've kind of got like two tiers. Actually, you explicitly have three tiers of cinematic in World of Warcraft. You've got the big giant, like pre-rendered, ultra high quality, like movie quality animations that take like a year and a half, 2 years to make. And those have to be started so early in the process that you end up with like Battle for Azeroth warping itself entirely around the fact that we have sunk so many resources into this Makagura that like, well, we got to put the Makagura on screen, and it has to be on screen as it exists because it cannot pivot. Because it's
cinematic, by the way.
It's a badass cinematic, but it's like all of a sudden like, okay, all of you, it's such an investment that all of the narrative threads need to lead towards it, regardless of what other. Yeah.
When you're writing the novel and you have like Christy working on it, it's like she didn't write that in a month. Like that's been a long process. So yeah, sorry to interrupt there, but yeah.
So you've got those, and then you've got the Engine Plus rendering tier where like they're by and large done in Engine, but they're done with like the higher res models and
like an end raid cinematic.
Yeah. So then you've got like the end raid cinematics, and those are more adjustable, but they still like, you're tying in voice actors and other things. And then there's the like, my honestly like kind of favorite at this point is the slideshow animatics.
The animatics are phenomenal. Yeah.
Because like those often use the fact that they're animatics to good effect. Like they embrace the fact that they're an animatic and use the language of stillness quite effectively. And they often have like some of the funnest moments. Like Xalatath's animatics have all been like really good over the last like 2 expansions.
Like, oh fuck! Or her coming out of the wall. Oh, in Ashkahet.
In Ashkahet. The Ashkahet one was like really good. And like there's this amazing shot of Ansarek and her mother in front of this like massive mural that is actually like at the end of one of the dungeons. But it's lit in a way and like from a point of view that you wouldn't see in game. And so it builds the world and the scope of the world really effectively. And so I think the team doing those, like I think the first one that they did in that style was the Legion, the Demon Hunter like backstory quest line.
They technically started them in
the first one.
They technically started it actually in Mists of Pandaria with Emperor Shaohao, the Burdens of Shaohao. They did that with his lessons, and ever since then they did it with the warlords, and from then on,
Right. I think the first one that people, so I would say in that regard, like it took them a couple expansions to come into their own, where like people started to really like notice them and be like, oh wow, there's something going on here.
100%.
Because that Legion one was was I think the first one that Legion one was the first one that people like talked about.
With Illidan and the Illidari and all that.
Yeah. And then I think every expansion since, they've had at least one out of that team that has like knocked it out of the park. So like so that Illidari one, the Daughter of the Sea.
Oh yeah, the Jaina ones. Honestly, all the BFA ones are sick.
All the BFA ones are really good. The Drakthir backstory, like the betrayal of the Drakthir.
Dragonflight Legacies.
Like there's been like
I even like the Warlords ones.
Like at least one standout.
Yeah. The Revendreth Afterlives one with Sire Denathrius. To the good people of Revendreth. Oh, so good. So good.
Yeah. So and those I think are a really good example of like the narrative team and like the cutscene team like making use of the format that they're given to do something very specific with the material that leverages the fact that they are an animatic rather than like a full, they aren't limited by what the in-game models are rigged to do, and they aren't bound by the fact that it's going to take 2 years to make like the full res things, so they can do more they can have more creative framing like the big expensive cinematics, but they can have they can do it like faster and more flexibly, and on like shorter notice they can make changes,
and way cheaper.
And yeah, they're way cheaper, and so they're getting part of that is that it's like, okay, where the Makagura in BFA is a moment that the entire expansion needs to bend towards,
right.
And it also then sort of needs to be like a little bit flexible in its framing so that things can get there from a bunch of different angles. The animatics are able to be made much later in the writing process, and are thus, they do tend to be more thematically like powerful and cohesive, in part because they are being written and made when so much more of the expansion has like taken shape, and it's like, okay, like what is the story? And they're going through and they're looking for moments in the story where it's like, okay, where can we put a high impact moment? And then those are coming in to like fill that out. And so they're able to tie in more things that have like that are elsewhere in the story.
I love this. If I can make a quick relation to World of Warcraft, it's kind of a fractal, if you will, for a repeated kind of pattern here, where you kind of have the light and the void, where the light is the kind of destined endpoint, and the void is all of the pathways and possibilities for how we get there. So what you're kind of describing, the way I interpret that, is like these like high budget, long production time and production value cinematics are kind of like that light, although it's kind of sometimes vague and not exactly clear. And then all of that other stuff you're describing, all the quests and cinematics and other work that's flexible that goes into it, helps form the actual whole image together. So kind of like one has to inform the other and all that. So I just think that's pretty cool.
Sure. Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. But so I think that's why like those are the ones that really stand out to me these days, and I think it's because they're coming later in the production cycle, and so they're able to be written for like they're able to be written for the story as it exists, rather than the story being written to arrive at a point. And I think it was there was kind of a reason why the big fully pre-rendered cutscenes used to just be like the expansion title, the expansion launch cinematic, and part of that was this, and they also used to be like, they were basically like mood pieces, right? Like because they are a piece of advertising. They're a trailer to like get you to go out and buy a box that has like video game in it.
It'll be the most seen thing.
Yeah, it'll be the most seen thing. And so they're like we just got to set the tone. Like you watch the original launch cinematic for World of Warcraft, like if you install the fresh game, it's just a montage of class fantasy.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why should you buy World of Warcraft? Montage of class fantasy.
Yeah.
Moments like, it's not trying to tell a story, and it's not telling a story, but it's not like the story it's telling is like, isn't this shit cool?
Yeah, it's not like overt and rigid in terms of the message.
And here's this dwarf's character development,
which is funny because Chris Metzen originally wanted to show like from the book from John Statz about how like he wanted to make it a cinematic of like the genesis of how the Titans created the world and all this stuff, which would be very
terrible idea.
It's funny to hear you say that.
For marketing's sake, I could see how people would be like, so is this Transformers?
Yeah, dude. And Chris has wrote several
even if it had been
novels. So
even if it had been a really good cinematic, it's not fit for purpose. It's a bad idea,
especially at the very beginning.
No, it needs to, especially at the very beginning. And I think there's a reason why like those big cinematics that have stood out the most are the ones that are just like basically pitching you on vibes.
Do you have a favorite?
And then
one,
maybe
Dan?
they get.
Yeah, do you have like a favorite overall?
Oh man.
It's such a hard question, isn't it?
It
It is a
There's
hard question.
12. Yeah.
I mean, because the thing is it like, yeah, there's 12. A lot of them are really good and have like even if they become incoherent in retrospect, like they've got really good moments in them. You know, the bit in the Shadowlands one where she rips the crown and like the visual effect of the sky ripping open is so good.
I was crying. I was literally crying, like incredible. Yeah.
I really like the Dragonflight one. Like that one makes me like, you know, what a great like, and that's sort of going like, I think the Dragonflight one is really good because that is kind of going back to like the mood piece thing, right? Like there's a bunch of things that happen, but they're not, you know, those characters that appear in the cinematic do show up and you do talk to them later, and they're not unimportant, but they're not like, you know, they're not the main characters of the expansion. And it is just this tight little short story about, you know, one rock guy who is willing to go to like great lengths to like do a job. And he's like, you know, he's falling, he's resigned himself, and then the dragons swoop in and like save the day. And it's like, and then it's zipping and flying and like going fast. Hey, wouldn't you love an expansion that's all about going fast and zipping and flying and dragons and like big open spaces, green fields, bright skies, you know, like, and it's like, okay, I'm sold. Dragonflight, let's go. I want to fly. Like, yeah. So it's got this nice little story, and it's not like that. Things don't really need to like warp themselves around. And it's pitching you on like on mood and tone and like what is this thing? Why should you know, get hype? Give us $70.
But then you'll get the people who at the same time you'll see, oh, it's very commonly referred to in certain kind of areas of like, oh, this is the Disneyification, this is the Disney wow, and it's like, is that, what do you think? Is that just bullshit? Like, are these people out of touch? Is it that there's something missing, that maybe they're not communicating? Like, what does that mean to you? I mean, that's a very common thing.
I would just gesture back to like WoW Classic and what we left behind and the things I said there, which is that like you know, anyone who's saying that like this is Disney WoW, their tastes have changed.
Yes.
And in part, they're like, it's the rose-colored glasses of not realizing that it's like, well, okay, hey, here's, you know, so some of the things that you were really into when you were 19 are a little cringe. They weren't very good, right? You know, I mean, I was saying this another day, like I was talking with Mr. Beat and just about the fact that it's like we could do better, like, you know, children's programming. Like, you know, I grew up in the 80s. Children's programming from the 80s, overwhelmingly not good. Transformers, not good. Transformers the movie, not good. My Little Pony, not very good. Care Bears, not great. You know, could be worse. Ninja Turtles, actually pretty bad a lot of the time. You know, these were like, you know, we were under like, you know, Reagan's FCC. They were toy commercials. And they you know, the only difference between the good ones and the bad ones was how much they cared to disguise that, you know. And so you know, WoW, like, very, very variable in its narrative quality, and it has always been very like cartoonish. It's always been aimed at a very like, you know, it's always been aimed at teenagers,
even since Warcraft. I mean, how you clear barricades, you send goblins at it that blow themselves up. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, it's goofy, sometimes it's quite sophomoric. Yeah,
like, you know, the defining thing about the franchise prior to World of Warcraft was, if you click on sheep long enough, they explode.
Yeah. Do you think that some people think that it was or is more hardcore than it actually was? Because if you compare it to like Dark Age of Camelot and like Ultima Online and stuff, some of those are like significantly objectively more hardcore is WoW. Was WoW
Yeah.
when it first came out considered kind of like the easy MMO, or like kind of
It was.
yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was explicitly considered the easy MMO. It was derided by a lot of the like EverQuest and Ultima Online and like Camelot, Dark Age of Camelot players as like baby mode
Yeah.
because it did away with because it's like, I mean, I talked about this in Classic, like, you know, I alluded to a lot of this in Classic, but we could have gone even more hard onto it, that it's like you didn't have XP penalties for dying, you couldn't lose a level, you had like very, very permissive fast travel, like what was considered extremely permissive fast travel at the time with the flight paths. You know, it only, like, you could hit 60 in a week. You could hit level cap in a week.
That's pretty short.
What is this, an MMO for babies?
I had a buddy who was older. He was a couple years older than me, and he was playing Dark Age of Camelot. And when he saw me playing WoW, he was like, "Dude, you're such a like, come on, play this." And I was like, "What do you mean? I've never played an MMO before." And I was like 16, you know. He's like, "No, dude, that game's..." And I remember another friend of mine would say, "Oh, do you know the game Lineage?" And I was like, "No, what's that?" He's like, "If you die, you lose all your shit. Like, you're just done." And I was like, "Oh, if I die, I just have to like run back." And yeah, I just, but yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I think also aesthetically, the thing that I like to think about is I think there's like there's like a understanding of what orcs and like what the old horde and everything is. It's accessible Warhammer. Like, that's like the way I often think about it. Like, or like just classic D&D. But I do think like there's like this bizarre wish casting maybe that the game at some point was like hardcore badass metal, but I think it was too jokey. Like, I think it was like,
it was always jokey, it was always cartoonish,
always parodic, and also with, you know, some obviously a bit of satire here and there, but I just thought it was like sophomore college humor or even high school humor, and I think that's okay.
And at the time, some of the guys
why I got into it
were kind of not too far removed from that point in life. Like,
totally.
And I think, I mean, and this is, I think, I think when people say that it's like, oh, we're in like the Disney WoW stage, I think maybe what they're identifying is there are like patterns in the storytelling that are maybe like not necessarily like great. There are definitely storylines that are kind of aimless, and entire elements of the like meta plot that is like, what's going on over there? Is anybody doing anything? You know, underutilized elements. Characters that were important that are just like absent for question mark reasons, and like, you know, and that's fair. And so I think like those are being misdiagnosed. You know, you're seeing something like, okay, like, what is the Horde's purpose right now? What is the Horde's identity? You know, that it's like, we don't need a war chief, we need a peace chief, hasn't really like come to much.
We have like a council now, but they still don't really do anything.
But they don't really do anything. Like, it hasn't really been like explored or utilized. There hasn't, you know, and because like that sounds, it's like, okay, you've got a council now. Cool. That's a really good opportunity for just a little cutscene where a bunch of characters that we know and love yell at each other because they've got different priorities. They've got different opinions about like what should go on. They've got old grudges, and that's not happening. And so like there is definitely like, you can easily identify a dozen different like absences. Even as kind of a stand for the story, I won't deny that at all. People ask the question like, where are the dragons right now? Like, didn't we have a whole fucking expansion with them? But it's so I can see that. But you're saying it's maybe kind of a in a misprescription of what the actual problem is. We define it with this kind of vagueness and this kind of, but there is still something there. There is still something there. Yeah.
Would you ever like consider doing a bit more video game content?
Oh yeah,
as a team?
I've been
Yeah.
working on a Silk
Like
Song
essays and
Expedition
whatnot.
33 script for months now, just in
Oh,
between
wow.
other
Awesome.
things. Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's so cool because I was thinking like I know you and Nathan and then the team like worked on this Warcraft videos. It'd be cool to see more Warcraft stuff from you, but yeah, like other games, I'd love to know.
We were
Yeah.
debating doing a like because we were looking very much like at midnight is like, okay, there's gonna be something's going to happen here. Like we had a big, long, very successful video about add-ons. People are going to wonder
Yeah.
what the add-on video guys think
Yeah.
about the add-on apocalypse. So we've definitely had it in the back of our minds. We were originally thinking about doing something very like interview heavy. That didn't come together for logistical reasons, and also we sort of backed off and went like, there will be no shortage of. We do not need to prompt anyone on their opinions on how this is going to go. We can just come back and like
be everywhere.
pull clip streams, pull YouTube videos,
Yes.
and summarize it after the fact, and then add our own commentary on top of it. But that hasn't materialized yet, mostly as a result of like we're very much a company creatively driven by like what are we excited to write about right now. So it's purely on the level of like, it's an idea that's in our head and we have a lot to say about it, but we're just not really like, there's not the energy to like sit down and like, all right, let's put this into a format now.
Yeah.
So but it'll probably happen, especially like at this point, we're kind of like, okay, well, if we didn't have something out for the first Race to World first,
Yes.
then it doesn't really matter. Like, things are either going to, one of two things is going to happen. A, Blizzard is going to like hold the course and things are going to continue to sort of like gradually evolve. But also we've already seen that the RWF guilds can just circumvent any like the loss of weak auras, like that stopped them 0%. So either they're going to hold the course and like maybe they're going to try to like clamp down even harder and like unravel that, which it doesn't look like they can, or they're going to flinch. And so basically, as long as they don't flinch like the day after we hit publish on a video, it doesn't really matter when we finally roll that out. Yeah.
And so if you're in a position where like you have some ideas and you have some thoughts that you might want to share, but not enough to like actually put it together into a project yet. And sorry, if you need to like leave or anything, just please let me know. But I don't want to take up too much of your time. But if you find yourself in that position, how do you handle, is there like a pool of ideas and kind of topics that you kind of mull around and then you pick one, or how do you kind of like how do you decide actually what you're going to make a video on?
Yeah, we've got a pool of topics that we're mulling on, and every now and then something will come along that will like shoot up the priority chain. So like the Mr. Beast video was not planned to be the thing after the Jarhead video. That it was like, okay, we're gonna do the Ghost video, then the Jarhead video, and then we had a couple ideas for the thing after that, and then the Mr. Beast trip happened, and I got back from that, and it was like I gotta write about this, and like I started like bashing out a bunch of stuff. But then we like finished the Jarhead video, and like as we're finishing the Jarhead video, I'm like, Mr. Beast is next.
Yeah.
Like
the opportunity's too good.
Opportunity's too good.
Yes.
This is too weird, and the timeline was just going to work out in terms of like, okay, we're going to finish Jarhead, and like as we're finishing Jarhead, the season is gonna like the season of the game show is going to come out. And we know that we're slow enough that it's going to be done long before we're done.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we had these like, I had these like creative aspirations in it where it's like, I want to do a couple high effort things. And so like, I'm planning those and we're like working on all of that. So like it shot up the, it shot up the priority list in January. and kind of overtook things. And then we had 3 other videos planned for the rest of the year, and then one of them we just kind of like sunset a few days ago because we were like, is anyone actually even excited to work on this? Like, no, not really. We've got but the other 2 videos that we had planned, we were already like starting pre-production on them like in like January, February. And we're just like, these 2, like, I'm really excited to write one of them. Nathan's really excited to write the other one. Both of them, we've got like really great ideas for like high effort production value that's going to take like months to like plan and get through. So one of them, we want to get more animation, more animatics done for it. And we want to give our animator like way more time this time. We want to give her like months instead of weeks. And so it's like, so we're like, okay, so that stuff needs to be scripted for like May so that she can get started in May so that she's got plenty of time to finish that over the course of the summer and the fall in between like the other work that she's going to need to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're just like, you know what, we're probably better off just like going all in on these other 2 since like the excitement is there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I don't imagine we have too much more time. Any last questions that you wanted to roll out there, Olwenn, before we let Dan go?
No. I mean, I think the final thing I'd say is like, it's a really nice to be able to sit back and enjoy a conversation about different parts of WoW, whether it's like narrative, gameplay, UX. I mean, so I'm just, the final thing I'll say is like, Dan, it's great to chat with you about WoW. I always end up learning something. I mean, I've been playing as long as you have, and there's times I'm like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. So I really appreciate you coming in and just like sitting down and letting it all out, because like it helps me, and I'm an academic, and I need this. So
I am not. I'm just a guy with a camera who makes videos. So, but I feel very much the same. Just getting that, just an alternative perspective, and you have significantly more experience playing WoW than I do. So it's been really wonderful to have the candid discussion about all the different topics. And there's 15 questions we didn't even get around to, but we would love to.
Yeah, I'm a long talker. I guess I should have warned that.
It's all
That's
good.
perfect.
That's actually one of the reasons why. Like, that was one of the reasons why I was like, this just has to happen, because we talk a lot. It's just nice to hear someone else who has a lot of different things to say about this game that's been around for 20 plus years. That franchise has been around for 30 plus years. So I don't know.
Not shallow by any means. Very much appreciate
deep.
the well-developed
so I appreciate
opinions. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Dan, even though many of the people watching this are likely to be very familiar with your history and content creation, where can people find you? Are you working on anything currently that you want to throw out there? Where can we follow you and subscribe?
So I'm on social media as Foldable Human, and you can find the main channel on YouTube. It's Folding Ideas. We're a team of 4 at this point, and I really feel these days in particular, like stressing that it's like that Folding Ideas these days is very much a team effort. We just came out with 2 videos about Mr. Beast, and those absolutely would not exist in the form they are without my team behind me. Nathan as a co-writer, Jessica as an editor, and Crystal as a administrative assistant.
She's been a pleasure to work with as well.
Yeah, so like their voices absolutely come through in the finished product, even if it's literally coming through my physical voice. But so you can find us at Folding Ideas on YouTube.
And that was Nathan, Crystal, and Jessica. Awesome. You said?
Yeah.
Hell yeah! Thanks
Shout
so
out
much
to them,
the
man.
Team. Yeah,
for real.
Well, thanks everyone for watching. We appreciate you very much for hanging out with us. Thanks again to Dan Olson for coming on. Don't forget that we are looking into having a logo made for the show. For anyone interested, you can send me a message on my Discord, which is in the link in the description down below. And then we are still collecting questions for our next episode from viewers. If you have any questions for the podcast for Olwenn and I, feel free to let us know in the comments down below on this episode here on YouTube, or on Spotify, or over on Apple Podcasts. So thank you everyone for watching. We appreciate you very much. Stay awesome. And until next time, we hope to see you all again later. Peace!